Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful wife.
Hello, beautiful husband.
And welcome to the recap.
The recap.
For book 3.
Book 3.
If you're just joining us now for the first time ever, just a little heads up. This is a recap for the entirety of book 3 of Curse the Crimson Throne. If you are just getting into the podcast for the very first time, be sure to check out the recaps for books 1 and 2 before you listen to this, because it is still required information. But the goal of this is to catch you up in a kind of shorter version than listening to the day's worth of recording that we have. And if you've been listening, it's just a nice opportunity to check in with us, see how you're doing. You can see how we're doing. It is 2 days before Thanksgiving, and this is going to be releasing on Thanksgiving, along with a new episode.
Woo!
What? 2 episodes in one day?
What?
No, we're cheating. It's one of them's a recap. So, yeah.
As may be inferred from the title and the premise, spoilers abound. Be aware.
We're going to be talking about the entirety of book 3.
We are spoiling the entire fucking season for you here.
And additionally, I'll also be talking a little bit about some of the stuff behind the scenes, both in the book and my own changes, because I do change things. That is part of adaptation, is making changes.
Yes.
And I'm going to be talking about some of what I did and why. Daft, you got any stuff beyond just the events of the book that you're going to be talking about?
Probably not.
Yeah, we do have to keep this to roughly maybe 2 hours, I'm hoping.
Yeah. I need to make sure that I don't talk too much is the thing.
Yes. Speaking of, you might notice there's a lot more pauses and ums and things in this. That's because for these recaps, we try to keep it a little less formal. We try to be like a little more conversational. Loosey-goosey. And this is pretty much the raw audio. Or
radio, as the kids call it.
I don't think anybody calls it.
Not yet.
We'll have to talk to some kids. First, we need to know some kids.
You also get a bunch of jokes that haven't been focus tested.
Yes. I'm looking at the focus group. They're shaking their heads. They're saying we should cut that one.
Fuck you.
Anyway, so what happened in book 3 of Curse of the Crimson Throne, Daft?
Well. Bloodveil cured for the most part. We went through a bit of a time skip that involved the party sort of acclimatizing to their role as the saviors of Korvosa. Siren got a merch deal.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a little bit of time to just adjusting to the new normal, which was interestingly, I believe when we were recording this was sort of around the time that we were coming out of lockdown. And then when we were releasing it, it was sort of the time when pandemic stuff was sort of fading out of public consciousness. And I mean, we're recovering. Sorry. And so it was, again, had this really crazy resonance for us in what we were doing. But then things that don't have resonance, Castor was kidnapped.
Yeah. Castor was kidnapped. Absolutely terrifying. I feel like that was a point where, like, so none of the Castor stuff is in the book. Like all of that stuff is stuff Rane makes up.
Yes.
And a lot of it is devised specifically to make me as upset as possible.
Yes. Like most of my jamming decisions.
And
I mean, so it's probably not good to say that I came up with all this on my own. A lot of what I try to do in times between books is sort of highlight elements of the setting or the story that really don't feature centrally in the book itself, but like are sort of explained to the GM either through box text somewhere in a like explanation thing, or it comes from another book. Explicitly, what I was trying to do starting in session 43 was like really flesh out the world in sort of the area outside Korvosa. Excuse me. as well as kind of getting into the politics of Korvosa itself, which is why we have Marcus Endrin come in and teach you guys how to spy.
Yeah, that was great.
The other reason, of course, being that I wanted you to get a connection to who Marcus Endrin is. We're starting to deal with the power structures of Korvosa in Book 3, right? We're dealing with who is the Seneschal, what is the Seneschal's role in the security of the city?
Yeah.
What duties does the monarch have? How there are checks and balances in this system.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to get into all that. So, but rather than just sitting here and reading off, these are the rules of the government of Korvosa, I was like, we need to give you like a personal connection to this.
Didn't you also supply me with a flowchart at some point?
I believe I did. I definitely made a flowchart. Did I give that to you?
I think you might have shared it with me with some things redacted.
I believe I did. Yes, I did do a how a bill becomes a law sort of thing in Korvosa. Yes. But yeah, most of this was like focusing on getting Kester back.
Yeah.
And
so there was getting Kester back.
Yes.
And then we also dealt with Ophelia. So this was the first time there was a month since Ophelia became a were-rat.
Oh, right.
And so there's some bits in here with us like buying the cages from the werewolf guy. Gosh, what that guy was that NPC. Did
Brave
you just,
Johnson?
Yes, Brave Johnson.
If they have an English sounding name, I probably made him up on the spot.
Yeah, no, it was very good. And then just Ophelia getting out was not expected.
Yeah.
And kind of scary. Ophelia waking up in an alley with like feathers in her mouth and none of her equipment.
Yes.
Was funny, but also kind of horrifying. Thank goodness for Shadow Shroud. She's just like, oh, I'm not wearing anything.
Yes. But yeah, we sort of started getting into like what it's like to be a were-rat, and this is not a thing that we ever explored fully, but I did kind of want to get into the idea of lycanthropy being like a manageable condition rather than like an affliction that destroys your life. It's like, you know, because I thought that'd be an interesting story.
Yeah, and I mean, throughout the rest of Book 3, we do a great job managing it.
Yeah, such a great job that I don't believe you ever actually unwillingly turned into a were-rat.
No, it never happened.
And so we didn't deal with the negative aspects of having the disease, but we got to deal with a lot of we did no, that's not fair. We did deal with sort of like the social stigma of being a person with like lycanthropy, right? And about how you can get support from people who share the condition, right? And I think that was good.
Yeah, and at some point we do go talk to Ares Yellow Eyes again. We'll talk about that later.
We can talk about it now. Okay.
But I mean, like the whole context of us visiting Ares Yellow Eyes is stuff from later in the season. But yeah, it's interesting stuff. Some of the things that happened to Ophelia. I also thought it was a really good way to give Ophelia and Damien a little bit of a chance to do their friend thing again, because we established early on that Ophelia and Damien were friends before the adventure started. Ophelia sort of being this socialite, and Damien is the socialite who didn't like super enjoy socializing, who was very good at it, but it wasn't really like her cup of tea. And Damien, of course, being terrible at socializing, but being, this sort of politically or socially minded individual who wants to try to rub elbows with the right people, and get involved with the right kinds of groups
to get funding.
And to convince like high up people in Korvosa to do things to affect social change. And how Ophelia and Damien sort of were friends beforehand, and Damien was the only person who knew that Ophelia was a mermaid, or a merfolk rather, which was revealed in Book 2. So it was nice to give them a little bit of together friend time. whereas, Ophelia interacting with Damien, we're Rat Ophelia interacting with Damien.
Squeak, squeak.
Squeak, squeak.
Anyway, but yeah, like, it's one of those things that as the party has become like a much tighter knit group, we have less and less of that, but like, I think it's really nice to get the opportunity to see people who have known each other for a bit longer, interacting like that. On to 44.
Yeah.
So of course with 44, with 43 and 44, we had this kind of like weird timescale thing where 43, we had sort of the big picture version of the time between books, but then in 44, we went back. In 44, we like went back and kind of did like a day by day kind of thing. And luckily this time we were able to have Elizabeth Wilcox of Dimension Door come in to play Zalara Esmeralda.
Oh, she did such a good job.
Which I was really thankful for, because the previous books, when I was doing the harrowing, it was just like a mess of me looking shit up, and I was like, ah! And I was always worried that like it would be like, oh, well, you interpreted the harrow that way because you know what's going to happen in the books. So what I did was I reached out to Elizabeth because she plays Harrower in Dimension Door, and I was like, hey, do you want to come on our show and like do this? It'd be a cool cross promotion thing because we love their show.
Yeah.
And I believe you went on their show.
Oh no, you went on.
No, I went on. Yeah. I went on to be that was much later.
Yeah.
I went on to be the guy in the circus on Severed Fate.
Yes,
that was cool. But anyway, like she came on and her harrowing was really good.
It was amazing.
I liked the way that she was able to bring like a lot more interpretation into the harrowing rather than just like, this is this card, it means this. And it was very important to me to have like a harrowing that really presaged the intrigue that was going to be part of book 3. One of the things that happens a lot of times in these adventures is, you have the overarching theme of the adventure path, but then each book is usually like a different way of approaching that kind of story. Like book 1 is mostly about like crime and anarchy and stuff like that, and tracking down people who are responsible for crimes. Then book 2 is more like it's
kind of like an episode of House.
It's kind of like an episode of House. It's also like rather than like your beat cop kind of thing, it's more like your detectives now, and like,
yeah,
oh, it's a like investigative process, and also, being a plague story.
Yeah.
But then book 3, I've always said, is like when you're spies, right? Like, this is the spy game.
Spy time. Good stuff. I really liked the harrowing. There was a lot of stuff there that was extremely portentous in the Suit of Intelligence. We had Damien drew the joke again. This is not the first time Damien has drawn the joke, and reader, it will not be the last.
Nope. Look, magnetically attached to that card.
But yeah, there's a lot of if you go back and listen to any part of the season, I recommend going back and listening to the harrowing, because I can't properly relate all of the like cool weird connections that showed up when Elizabeth drew those cards for us.
Yes. But one second, we got cats being cats. Sorry, cat thing's resolved. We have separated the cats.
Yes. And after we did the harrowing, we did sort of a training montage to get ready for our infiltration into Citadel Vraid to rescue Kester from the Order of the Nail.
Yes.
That was fun.
Yes. And then, just to sort of big picture the next couple episodes, then we had our infiltration into Citadel Vraid. where we went to Citadel of Raid to rescue Kester. We had like this super cool planning in 44, and then the execution of it in 45 and 46,
and sort of the stumbling through the plan, the changing of the plan on the fly, a very clutch use of locate object. I used it to find Unia had locate object prepped. I used it to find Kester's crayons. And we used that to figure out where Kester was. Something that I wanted to talk about from the infiltration as well was just in order to get down into the basement of Citadel of Raid, where we had figured out Kester was being held, Damien used Major Image to make it appear that the guy in charge, Lictor DeVries, was leading us through the dungeon, leading to, I think, one of my favorite lines that I've ever delivered, which is just Damien yelling in sort of a voice cracking way. All I desire is your unquestioning obedience.
Yes, it was very good. Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I was trying to do with the entire sequence through Citadel of Raid is again flesh out the area outside of Korvosa. This information, a lot of it is coming from a book called Castles of the Inner Sea, which has the entire floor plan of Citadel of Raid, as well as a lot of the history that I touched on in those episodes. And one of the things that you'll probably notice in this book and going on into book 4 here is there's a lot more emphasis on the legacy of Korvosa as sort of an imperial province, right? And sort of the colonizing mentality. And so one of the things that I did want to do with Citadel of Raid is like really explicitly say, hey, yeah, that's the problem here. We have this place that's literally just here to impose the will of Cheliax in this way, indirectly through the Hell Knights. On Varisia. And of the Hell Knight orders, I believe the Order of the Nail is like one of the
evilest?
One of the worst.
I mean, most of them are pretty evil.
Yes.
A lot of the time. Nearly all of them are pretty evil most of the time. But Order of the Nail is especially bad in this kind of way.
Yes.
There was some stuff. There's a lot of
like specifically the reason that I'd say that they're one of the worst is that they're explicitly they concern themselves with quelling savage practices and bringing the idea of civilization to the inhabitants of the wild frontier.
Yes.
And so it's very 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 colonizing aspect.
Re-education kind of.
And so that's what we did, right? We had re-education here. We had forced labor. We had all these things that, just to kind of show what the problem with Chelish occupation is for Varisia.
And another thing to note, this doesn't have a payoff in book 3. And we can delete this if you think it's but
we'll see.
Unia was called a thrall keeper here by one of the Shawanti slaves, basically.
This is one of the first times that we've had to interact with like Shawanti, because Shawanti being the indigenous peoples of the Korvosa general area. They've been driven from the land, first into the hinterlands and then into the Storval Plateau. And one of the things that I wanted to do here is sort of like get an opportunity to interact with like members of that culture that aren't trying to smooth things over with Korvosans like you got with Thousand Bones.
Yeah.
But like people that have like explicit hatred of Korvosans. For good reason. Like this guy was cleaning a bridge where they had a forced perspective art installation commemorating the death of one of their great heroes. right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fucked up.
And so we sort of got into a little bit of culture there. Also, it's because book 4, we are going to be getting more into Shwanti culture. And so I wanted to get like a little seed of it.
It's also always good to have Unia, who is sort of, contending with their legacy as one of the last worshippers of really the god of colonialism.
Yes.
And sort of how that, how Eridan's legacy, in the form of the push, the colonial push into Varizia and into Cheliax, and then the legacy of Cheliax itself, and all of the ways that Cheliax has negatively affected its neighbors. Unia sort of having to contend with their view of Eridan as this guy who's always looking out for the humans and making sure that humans and humanity have a meaningful foothold on Galarian and are, have a place in history and have a place, and are able to thrive and things like that. And looking at how everybody around them who believes in those sorts of things has taken that as an excuse that to push for the quote-unquote best for their faction of humanity.
This we will get into in later months.
Yes.
But we did sort of introduce the idea of confronting Unia on these issues.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
But we went into the dungeon. We freed Kester. We got to see that Kester has been forced to draw images of some kind of blue dragon and artifacts that seem to be tied to that blue dragon through chains, which of course becomes kind of the overarching theme of the book, right? Is finding out what this blue dragon is and what the artifacts are and their significance. We also had a lovely fight with Signifier Strickland, a villain that I completely created myself. Just being like, what would be a really cool villain to add to this? I've wanted a Hell Knight villain ever since I first read Curse of the Crimson Throne. And interestingly, there are no Hell Knight villains. You never explicitly fight the Hell Knights in the books of Curse of the Crimson Throne. So I was like, prime opportunity, make a villain who is a Hell Knight. And so that's who I added here. I'll talk about this later when we get into book 4. There is actually a character that I replaced with Strickland. I
love Strickland. I hate him. He's awful. He's amazing.
And so that's the Hell Knight Citadel. We got back from the Hell Knight Citadel to realize that things in Korvosa are not quite that well off. In fact, one of the artifacts that we just saw in the drawings is now sitting on Iliosa's head.
Yep.
She had this lovely sequence in which she decided that she was going to basically clean house for people who were not loyal to her. And she was going to remove Marcus Endrin from power as Seneschal. Or rather, Cressida appointed Marcus Endrin as Seneschal, but she then said, oh, no, you can't appoint him. I already appointed my own Seneschal, which is against the charter of Korvosa. And so that, raised a few eyebrows. But most importantly, it was the first time that I think Cressida's ever been in direct opposition to Iliosa. And
besides the stuff that, she's done through us.
Well, yeah, I mean, direct opposition.
Direct, yes.
Like publicly say, I appoint Marcus Endrin, and then Iliosa go, no, you don't.
Yes.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
And so then we had the lovely inciting incident of book 3.
Oh my god.
Where Marcus Endrin goes to assassinate Iliosa. I put a little bit more work into building this up in your conversations with Endrin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In the book, this shit just happens, and it's actually stated that you might or might not be there to witness it. If the full party had been around, you would not have been there. But since you got Ophelia off on her own,
and Lenore had been turned to stone.
Yes, I was like, oh yeah, we can do that. Yes. Oh, sorry, I totally breezed over.
Yeah.
Lenore was turned to stone.
Yeah, that was
by the Dracolisk in the dungeons.
Yeah, no, that was the thing that happened. So Cinter subbed in for a little while we were waiting for the Bank of Abadar to have an opening in their appointment list for Flesh to Stone.
Yeah,
or Stone to Flesh,
while
rather.
we waited for the Archbanker to be available to unstone Lenore again. Well, she wasn't stoned before. No,
Yeah.
she's stoned. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to breeze past one of the most...
I cried.
One of the most hurtful things I've done to your party.
Like, it's one of the things that sucks about Flesh to Stone is that it's hard to break. But another thing that sucks is that I didn't realize at the time that you can break it with break enchantment, which Unia could have prepped because they had 5th level spells at that point.
Yeah. Well, what's Unia's intelligence score?
8.
Yeah, like if Unia doesn't think of something,
Yeah.
they've got kind of intelligence.
Yeah. They are
set in their ways.
Yep. And they've never really cast break enchantment for anything, so it didn't occur to them.
Yeah. So we tried to assassinate Iliosa, but she shrugged it off. She died
in one of the most badass sequences.
Yeah. She died, but then she got back up and stabbed Marcus Endrin in the bottom of the jaw with the arrow.
Yeah.
And declared that this is what I'm going to do to all my enemies from this point on.
Yeah. I don't think we can quite overstate just how much Marcus Endrin overkilled her.
Oh yeah.
So much.
Yeah. This is
lots.
This is one of the cases where I sort of take time to embellish on what the book says. Like the book says, oh, he shoots her with the bow and she dies. And I was like, okay, this piece of prose has not played Pathfinder. Like what is required in order to kill somebody in one round is quite a lot. And so that's why I took the time to build up. Oh, we're the Sable Company. We use these named bullet arrows when we want to assassinate somebody, so that we can do it in one shot. Also, bows have a ×3 crit modifier. And then I can describe it as, it's a critical hit, and when you crit with a named bullet, you get extra damage as well. And so I had him crit twice. It's one of those times where, for narrative purposes, you can just say that happened. And it has happened to me a few times. And famously, I had a triple crit, I believe, in our Kingmaker game.
Yep.
And I think I did. What was it?
180 damage? It was something absolutely ridiculous.
It was at a comparable level to this. Actually, it was a lower level. But like I was like, like it's totally possible to put out hundreds of damage in a round.
Yeah.
At this level, and I was like, let's explain why he's able to kill her in one round.
Yeah.
And I also sort of showed off some of his feats and the way that he fought. But the important part is he killed her, and
she came back.
And she came right back. And then we are back into anarchy for a while.
Yeah. And something disturbing to me, Togamore, the new seneschal, notably the guy who made our nice fancy dress for the gala. Way back in book 1. Shoved Endrin's dead body into a bag of holding.
Yes.
And everybody pretended like it hadn't happened. Yes. I mean, the him shoving the body into the bag of holding.
Yes.
And I was like, oh shit.
This is also one of the things that I do really like. Just to touch on before we move on is when I'm doing the episode titles, I always like to have something that has like a specific resonance. And this one is A Dish Fit for the Gods.
Oh yes.
I actually talked to my cousin who is a Juilliard graduate actress. Like, hey, what would be a good like Shakespearean line to like bring in here, and so we will carve him as a dish fit for the gods when referring to how they're going to assassinate Julius Caesar, and it's like, oh, it's going to be like a glorious event, right? This isn't going to be like one of those baser assassinations. it's going to be a beautiful assassination. Well, it turned out that this was not a beautiful assassination.
No. The title being ironic in some way?
Yeah, what? And then this launched us into sort of a search for information where we actually got to do what I was talking about earlier, which is looking into the power structures of Korvosa through the peerage review, and actually mostly just through peerage review. I believe we had a little bit in Lady of Infinite Zest, but in peerage review, we're like, okay, how was Iliosa able to appoint her own seneschal? Because that's not what the Charter of Korvosa says she's supposed to be able to do.
Yes.
And so we get into that. If the peerage review, which is a council of 5 powerful families in Korvosa, say, oh yeah, that's fine, then we can do a charter amendment, which basically we got that Iliosa during Bloodveil went to the peerage review and was like, oh no, I need a seneschal, I'm not safe, can I appoint one? And we got that, you needed a unanimous decision by those families, and at first they did not agree to it. I believe we had disagreements from House Arcona and House Ornelas. And so we went to a few of the other families, which are Zenderholm and Jagare, and I believe there's also Lorong is the 5th house. We didn't go to Lorong, but we went basically to House Jagare, who run the Museum of Korvosa, and we went to House Zenderholm, Zenobia Zenderholm specifically, who is the head arbiter for the courts of Korvosa. Basically she's the leader of the Supreme Court. Yeah. And that was a fun bit of tension there.
Boy. I feel like it was a really good opportunity for Sinter to, who's been presented mostly as like a very competent infiltrator, very good at lying, very good at making people trust her, making bad people trust her, to meet her match. We go to Zenobia Zenderholm to basically be like, oh, we're gonna sneakily get information out of you, and she midway through it just goes, no, I know what kind of people you are, I know what you're doing right now, and I also know the narrative we're gonna use to bring you down. And that was so fun to play. But it was really neat, having Sinter give her best performance, and then just have this person who's like, no. Yeah. And just having Sinter flounder a little bit, as well as nothing she said to Zenobia was getting any purchase, was really good. I don't get to play my characters screwing up like that very often. My characters, they screw up due to bad dice rolls and stuff all the time. But to have them, go into something that they're ostensibly really proficient at, and something that we've seen them succeed at before in a really interesting way. Like we had Sinter infiltrate the Ergothoan cult really successfully in book 2. So to see her fail here, and then just to turn the act off like a switch and say, I think that what Marcus Endrin did was foolish, but his heart was in the right place. That was fun. I really enjoyed that whole scene.
And then in the other hand of this, we also dealt with Merciful Jagare,
who's wonderful,
who is affable,
yes,
and friendly and like other synonyms. But also is perpetuating this legacy of colonialism and like murder.
Oh yes.
I think it was really neat doing the Citadel of Raid stuff first, and then coming to a museum where we put on all the trophies that we've collected over the years.
Oh yeah.
And we have the like Gary Sinise narrated like this is the history of Korvosa and our heroic founding fathers, right?
And meanwhile, we
no
have,
offense to Gary Sinise, but
and meanwhile we have a corpse, just
just a corpse sitting there.
One of the defeated Shoanti leaders, just here. It's just here on display.
Yeah, and you had your lovely conversation with Merciful.
Yes, I didn't mean Merciful's like a good person. I meant Merciful's a delight.
Yes, and that's fine. That's fine. Like the sort of one of the pieces of reckoning that you have to deal with in a colonist legacy is some of the people are really nice now, and I can be mad at them. Especially in Merciful's case, Merciful just cares about history, right?
Yeah,
it's like
they just like to make sure that everything is preserved.
Yeah, specifically the legacy of my family and how good my family is.
Yeah, there's a river named after me.
Yep.
It's right there.
Yes.
It's full of shit.
It's full of shit, just like me. But yeah, we sort of get like different sides to the politics of Korvosa. One being the cold, calculating side with Zenobia, and we also get the polite, vapid side through Merciful.
Yeah.
We did not go to House Larong because during the time looking through the archives here, we did find a connection to the Blue Dragon.
Yes. This was very fun. Merciful was preparing a new acquisition for display at the museum. It was a piece of stone,
yes,
like some sort of
like a Rosetta Stone style thing where there's just a warning on this piece of stone.
And do you want to talk a little bit about the warning and your thought? Your process?
I had a stone that was contributed. Just to get your goodwill.
Wow.
It's basically it is literally the nuclear warning that you put up in places where radio or nuclear waste is buried, but with sort of the thing being warned about being a evil artifact that will corrupt your minds. You in exploring this this sort of Rosetta Stone thing, you guys got access to the archives. You found out that one of the things that they're not telling people is that parts of this monolith had old Taldan writing.
Yeah.
And that they're sort of burying that part a little bit because it conflicts with the narrative of, we came to Korvosa with Jacktheon Korvosa and Montlarian Jagare, be bold settlers in a wild land, right? This basically said that about 1,000 years ago, which would have been, I think, 600 years before them, there was somebody in this region who spoke the old version of Taldane, who helped to write this with the Shoanti. And we dug through their archives, basically trying to find any connection to anything else, and it took you several days, but you did find a connection to a blue dragon in the form of a art exhibit.
Yes.
By
Salvatore Scream.
Yes, by Salvatore Scream, an conflicted and disturbed artist. I definitely wanted to lead into the kind of purple prose or blue prose in this case, of how we talk about artists.
Yeah. Tortured even.
Yes. And oh, well, he has to be tortured to create beautiful art. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so following on that, we actually got to get into Old Korvosa, a place that has still been quarantined off since the beginning of Bloodveil. Specifically, it was extra quarantined by burning all the bridges that go into Old Korvosa. And we got to deal with
sneaking in.
Yes, sneaking in.
So, we learned that if you go through the one remaining bridge into Old Korvosa, they're like, you can go through, but you can't come back.
Yes.
Because Bloodveil is still here. And we're like, but we can cure Bloodveil if we just talk to them. Yep, Bloodveil, you can't leave.
It's like extra Bloodveil in here.
Yeah, super Bloodveil.
Yeah.
It's the type of Bloodveil that poor people get.
Yeah. Actually, you said this the quiet part out loud.
And so the Grey Maidens are guarding that bridge.
Mm-hmm.
So we snuck through the sewers. There are some sewer lines very deep that go underneath the Saint Alika waterway. And we got jumped by some invisible bandits who really kicked our asses for like the first round of combat.
Yes.
And then we got the upper hand and beat them up. And then we made our way to Endron Isle, where we met a friend. We did not find Salvatore Scream at his house.
No, but we did find a very bubbly elf lady. Everybody's favorite character from Curse of the Crimson Throne. Mine, certainly. Lowry Voss, an agent of Nidal, who's here investigating the dragon as well. She's collected the skulls of all these other artists that also had visions of this dragon, and has been trying to question the tongueless, mouthless skulls.
Yes, Lowry, not the brightest.
I really love bringing in Lowry because, we have this depiction of Zonkuthanism as Zonkuthan being, of course, the god of darkness and pain and torture, very much like the Hellraiser god in the Pathfinder, like pretty explicitly the Hellraiser god, and sort of being a god of granting power to those willing to submit to his designs, and it sort of provokes a certain aesthetic, kind of like a goth,
the sort of the extremely we'll say emotionally blunted, sexy, covered in piercings and
greater
chains.
Delights await.
Yes, in sort of the Cenobite kind of way, where it's like we are so separate from regular human experience at this point that our minds might as well be alien.
Yeah, and in contrast, you have Lowry, who's basically like the mean girl cheerleader, who is like always like negging people, and it was important to me to have somebody who is the same alignment and does commune with this god and does get answers from this god, but whose way of doing it is way outside what the normal accepted practices suggest you should do.
Yeah.
And everyone I ever talked to loves Lowry.
Oh my god. Also, your performance of Lowry is just so good.
I had to make sure that I gave her due. Because everybody loves Lowry so much, and anytime anybody's ever run this adventure, like, what everybody talks about is how much they like Lowry. In fact, we had a question from one of our listeners, Alex Chilver, previously one of the winners of a contest, asking when Lowry would be back, and I was like, I'm sorry, Lowry's not going to be back for like a little bit, but don't worry, Alex, we will get to Lowry. Not soon, but we will get to her. But I wanted to make sure that I did her justice, because everybody loves this character so much when they read the books or play the adventure.
I loved her playing off Ophelia, who is sort of like, we'll say, like, Ophelia's social identity is very much sort of the nice girl cheerleader. Like,
Yes.
I'm very popular, I'm bubbly, I always seem positive. And so, like, having sort of like the cheerleader catfight kind of vibes going on there was very fun.
Yes.
And then also Cinter being totally aware that Lowry is not being upfront about why she is here and what she wants to find, and just having like this kind of circuitous conversation around the issue with Lowry in the middle of the night as we were sort of keeping watch was also very good. Cinter having a little bit of a conversation about Kuthism and things like that. Good.
It was really neat for me in the sense that again, this is the book that is more like the spy game one, and so Lowry is also like explicitly a spy from another country, like coming into your town to get information about your town, which could potentially destabilize you, but you don't really know why she's here, and I think it was really neat having the more espionage oriented character in Cinter like come into basically after being bested by Zenobia Zenderholm to reassert her proficiency here.
Yeah.
It was really good.
Yeah, I love Cinter. Cinter's very fun. And so we had our sleepover. Oh my god. And filled with such wonderful things as Lowry making the skull that wasn't talking to her face the wall because, quote, she was kind of a bitch. And doing blood biography on a bit of blood that Salvatore Scream had left behind on a pillow before Lowry went to sleep on said pillow.
Yes. And you did get from this information that what's the guy's fucking name?
The Emperor of Old Korvosa, Pilt Swastel,
has Salvatore Scream. Sorry, I was trying to think of Salvatore's fucking name.
Yes. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, there's so many characters.
Yeah.
And
we went the next day with Lowry to see this guy who self-styled the self-styled Emperor of Old Korvosa, the former leader of the exemplary execrables.
Yes. Beautifully brought to life by one of our dearest friends and collaborators in this process, Mr. Philip Melvin. Who came in across many time zones to record with us, and just totally crushed it.
Yeah.
As Pilt Swastel, this like petty tyrant of Old Dock.
Yeah.
Basically a guy who's like climbed to the top of a bunch of tenement buildings and gone, I am the Emperor.
Yeah.
And a guy who in like polite society was sort of seen as just kind of shitty theater owner.
Yeah.
But now that Endronile has been isolated, he's like, oh, now I'm in charge. Because suddenly he's like one of the most charismatic people on Endronile.
And also one of the meanest bullies.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went and we talked to Piltz, and Piltz said, yes, I do have Salvatore Scream. He has been making art for me. He is my artist in residence by force.
Yes.
And if you want to talk to him, you'll have to entertain me. So get into that arena there and play some Blood Pig.
Yes. And so you played Blood Pig for a chance to talk to Salvatore.
Yes.
And I do have to say, like, this is like one of my favorite segments, like not just because Philip was great, but just sort of the themes going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite shows in recent memory was the Marco Polo show that was on Netflix, in which it follows Marco Polo being a prisoner of Kublai Khan, but being, you know, sort of like in the way that you keep state prisoners, right?
Yeah.
Like in that you don't throw them in a jail cell and be like, like, here's your 3 meals a day or whatever. It's like, no, you give them nice clothes, you give them what they want, right? You can even give them weapons and like train them to fight for you, right? But like importantly, the only rule is you can't leave.
Yeah.
Right. And like just having the gross misinterpretation of that kind of political prisoner situation through Piltz-Swastel being like, oh yes, I have brought him into my court, and he sits in this room with boarded up windows, painting for me. Like I really liked kind of sort of a like Carnival-esque relationship to authority that you get in this book, like where yes, I've named myself emperor and now I rule over all of the slums that I can see, right? And
I'm up in the highest one so that I can see all of the other ones.
Yeah, we've put down, we've connected the buildings of these tenement buildings with little bridges, and now it's a castle.
Yes.
And you won your blood pig game.
We did, after what was in game maybe a minute and a half, and what was in real life about 6 hours.
Yeah, it was a long fucking record. 3 episodes to do this. I was really worried that it wouldn't translate to audio very well, but thankfully Philip just so fucking good at maintaining the energy.
Incredible.
And
we talked to him after. I was like, how much experience do you have with like tabletop RPGs or like improv? And he's like, none. We were like, what? Well, you clearly have a talent for it. Yes. My God.
There's also, the guy also just happens to put out music that's thematically exactly what we've been looking for, almost always, like the week before episode airs.
Yeah, we're like, what should we have for this episode? We're putting it together, and then it's like, oh, Philip has a new thing. Holy shit.
Yeah, and it was really great to have him on the show. He played Piltz so fucking well.
Oh my God.
We had our botched suicide attempt.
The botched suicide.
The botched suicide attempt at the end of this.
Yeah, that was because of a roll on the Rod of Wonder, wasn't it?
I believe so, yes. Specifically what he was going to say was a result of one of the rolls on the Rod of Wonder. I just, for the botched suicide, I just asked him to do a coup de grace on himself, and he did not succeed in killing himself. And so then you guys left.
The poem, The Screaming of Rosebud, completely extemporaneous, totally improv by Philip on the spot.
Yeah. The requirement from the deck of from the Wild Magic table was that his last word had to be Rosebud. And so he prepared this monologue for us while we were playing Blood Pig.
Yeah.
And then delivered it before failing to die.
It was amazing.
Yes.
My party at that time, not particularly good at Blood Pig, because a lot of us needed magic and stuff to bring our base attack bonus up to full base attack bonus.
Yes.
We didn't actually have anybody in the party at that time with a full base attack bonus.
Nope.
Because Lenore was turned to stone.
Lenore was still stone.
So we struggled a little bit, but we did manage to succeed through, we'll say, superior tactics and some blatant rule violations.
The rules were like the loosest possible interpretation of rules that you can have.
We did cast web after he said no magic, so...
You did. But I mean, ultimately the penalty was just the other team gets a point.
Yeah.
So it's like a gambit, like sacrificing a pawn in chess.
Yeah.
Except much less dignified.
Yes. Damien? Dignity? Where?
Yes. And then let's see. So then we both dimension doored and shadow walked out.
Oh yeah, so we got Piltz brought Salvatore up, and it was clear that Salvatore was both being imprisoned against his will and wasn't going to say anything about why he was imprisoned or what was going on while Piltz was in the room. Piltz did not let us leave to go talk to Salvatore, correctly twigging onto the fact that we were just going to take Salvatore and run. So what we did was we took Salvatore and ran. Nearly dying in the process. Again, we had forgotten that we were allowed to keep our weapons due to the fact that the game took like 10 fucking hours. And
we were doing it for a while.
But we did manage to escape by dimension dooring and shadow walking. Dimension dooring from Damien, shadow walking from Lowry, and we made our way back to Lenore's house.
Yes.
With Salvatore.
Yes. And then we got to deal with Salvatore being quite traumatized by this whole affair.
Oh God, yes.
And like dealing with sort of the fallout of his emotional state in this time.
Yeah. His emotional state during this time, bad.
Yeah, bad.
Not only was he traumatized by what had happened with Piltz, but he was also like very disturbed.
Yeah, he became pre-traumatized by the visions of this blue dragon peeling off, or rather, a guy peeling off his skin to reveal a blue dragon beneath.
Yeah, piles of bodies,
deserts where the sand is skulls, like all this kind of shit that, like, really just fucked with him a lot.
Yeah.
And you sort of had your time trying to coax the information out of him. You did eventually get that he has had these visions for a long time. He stopped receiving them. I believe we placed it time-wise around when the events of the book kind of kicked off.
Yeah, about when King Eoder died.
Yeah. Or rather, like slightly before that.
Yeah.
Like to the tune of a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But we started to establish this timeline. We also, in our interrogations of Salvatore Scream, learned that he had hosted Neolandus Calipopoulos, the seneschal of Korvosa, in his house as the guy was recovering from some kind of poison attack. And that after he'd kept him for a little bit, he gave him to the Arconas.
Yeah, the Arconas, who he knew because he had been commissioned to do some work for them.
Yes.
And of course, because the Arconas, being the closest thing that Old Korvosa has to royalty, were very...
They have a king. That's the whole thing. It's about them having a king and queen. Oh, sorry. Old Korvosa has
yes,
royalty.
Yes. The closest thing Old Korvosa has to royalty. I'm sorry. When you said they have a king, I thought you were referring to Piltz. Excuse me.
Put some respect on his name. You dare.
But yes, the Arconas, being the closest thing that Old Korvosa has to royalty, sort of having their own little palace and their own bit of land that they have, sort of cordoned off. Also very interested in making sure that they make themselves aware of and patronize, that's the word I'm looking for, artists.
But the right way, not the
yes,
not the
not the imprison them and make them pay for you kind of way.
Shit in a bucket way.
And so we sent Neolandus off to the Arconas, and our only awareness of the Arconas at that point was that Malia Arcona had been involved in the All the World's Meat scandal.
Yes.
And that
way back in book 1.
Yeah, way back in book 1. And that the Arconas had sold the warehouse beneath which the Ergothone cult had made their base. The building that became the Hospice of the Blessed Maiden, which was in book 2. So our impression of the Arconas at that point, not super good.
Nope.
So we were concerned by this revelation, along with the fact that our friend Vedcarlo Orsini had said he was going up to Endron Isle, and that we should wait 2 weeks before following, and that he hadn't gotten back to us.
Yes.
He said he was going to look. Did he say he was going to look for the Seneschal?
I believe he said that he had some information he needed to gather himself in Old Korvosa. I think, did he say, I don't remember if he said that he's going to the Arconas.
I think we inferred that.
Yeah. But either way, yeah, he went looking for Neolandis about, like, slightly before all this is going on, and wanted 2 weeks to deal with it.
And we were like, well, it's not quite been 2 weeks yet. We'll give him the remainder.
Yeah, it just happened to coincide with about the amount of time you needed for Lenore to get turned back from stone. So, you know, we decided, oh yeah, we'll just wait.
Yeah.
And you know, you guys recuperated a little bit.
We had some tension with Lowry over who gets to ask questions.
Yes.
And then we moved Salvatore down to our safe house in the Grey District, which Lowry was not allowed into. And she left by Lowry.
Yes, by sinking into the shadows and disappearing to the dawn.
Yes. Goodbye, Lowry.
Yeah.
We will never see her again.
No, we'll see her.
You'll see. No, Alex, we will see her again. I've got you in mind, Alex. We will see Lowry.
As of our recording times, we have seen her.
We have.
But that's pretty far off in the future. So then we get into...
When Lenore was turned back into a person rather than being a statue, she wanted to go and look for her little Otiug friend, Portobello, who at the end of book 2, I believe, we had a visit from what we assumed were the Red Mantis assassins, doing pest control in our building.
They left a sawtooth saber embedded in your
They did.
In your
it was
table,
not.
so
It was not the most subtle of
it was a threat.
cards.
Like it was a threat.
Yes. And so we went to try to figure out what had happened to Portobello. We talked to Ares Yellow Eyes to see, you know, if we could get some information on what might have happened.
That being the were-at that we talked to in book 2. Who has been providing support for Ophelia as a new person with lycanthropy. And Ares didn't have an answer for where you could get this information, but she did have next place you could look.
Yes. She advised us to go talk to the broker below.
In the form of a riddle.
Yes, she gave us sort of a coded message, a riddle that was fun to solve.
Fun with maps.
Yes, fun with maps.
You know, it's Rain's doing when it's fun with maps.
And so we went
Big fan of maps.
And so we went to go visit the broker below.
Which is, this is a thing entirely of my own invention, being that basically it's a information broker who lives in the undercity of Korvosa. Well, not explicitly in the undercity. He lives in a demiplane in the sewers. And like either you open this manhole cover and you get into the sewers, or if you have an appointment or you know how to get to him, you open it and here's this information broker right below the halls of law.
More fun with Major Image to distract everyone while we opened up the the manhole cover. Damien made
Gloria Arcona
throwing money on the corner.
And it worked.
I'm Gloria Arcona.
And I'm giving away free money. I believe the first
throwing coins in the air.
The first appearance, I believe, of my Matt Berry impression for Gloria Arcona.
Very good.
Anyway, so you talk to this information broker who. This part I do like to get into a little bit of the behind the scenes stuff. I made this character because as we're transitioning out of low level play and into higher level play, one of the kind of necessary things is addressing how this location fits into the multiverse. Because, you know, Pathfinder exists in a multiverse that that has like multiple planes of existence. And, you know, hell has a big influence on all things Chelish.
Yep.
And so I wanted to get into what is Korvosa's relationship to hell. And so we have this information broker who basically has connections in both Korvosa and Dis, but doesn't reside in hell because, and I don't believe this came out in the show, he is a lawful neutral devil, which is a thing that can happen in the Pathfinder setting. Is you can have outsiders who are usually explicitly tied to the morality of their plane. Like devils are usually lawful and evil, but in some cases you can have outsiders who break with their ideology. That they're supposed to maintain. And specifically, there were a couple hints in this. We said that the imps are union.
Yes.
So we've got imps here that have better advocacy for their rights as employees. Also, unions are illegal in Korvosa.
Yeah.
But because these guys operate out of this demiplane, they're not actually subject to the laws of Korvosa unless somebody were to find out that they're union. But the only time that they engage in union activities is when they're in the demiplane. Otherwise, like to most people in Korvosa, there's just imps that you can bind to get messages delivered, right? And that's really most people's interaction with imps. And then they fight with pseudo dragons, like
all the time,
like seagulls and
seagulls and crows.
Yeah. And specifically, I was like also this guy makes a deal with you to get information about Portobello, but he doesn't really ask for something
he doesn't take our souls. He doesn't sign a contract for our souls or for anything like evil, really. He wanted us to get he wanted us to get a bone of a red mantis assassin.
I believe there is still a clause in there that it sort of follows standard hell, like things for, we might be able to claim your soul if you break the contract. Or something
if we
like
break
that.
the contract, then yes, that's the penalty. But it's not like, now you will be forever bound to hell's service because you signed this contract.
Yeah.
It's, if you fuck with me, I will send you to people who are less nice.
Yes. And so you made a deal with this guy to basically get the bone of a red mantis assassin to help you find Portobello. And then it was off back to Old Korvosa to find the red mantis.
Yeah, and also to find Vencarlo, because by then it was 2 weeks.
Yeah, by then it was 2 weeks, and we were like, we should probably
check on that. So we were going to go check on his fencing academy and house in Old Korvosa.
Yes. And so with this information, or with this mission in hand, and in the interest of finding Vencarlo, you went to Old Korvosa.
So we slunk through the sewers again, running into some guards who we fucked with.
Yes.
For fun.
And
then it turned out they were working for Cressida, and we kind of felt bad.
That's a different thing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, that's later. That's in Radiant Depths.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
Let's
redact that.
Yep, redacted. Sorry, getting ahead of ourselves there. We've been in the sewers so many fucking times at this point.
Yeah. We went through the sewers, came out. Another clutch use of locate object by Unia.
Yes.
Looking for sawtooth sabers.
This was honestly, like, when you did this, I was like, that's brilliant. I never would have thought of doing that, and like the book gives you all these steps you can go through for like, this is how you can get to this area, like this is how you can, like, basically it gives you like a lot of different avenues to search for Vencarlo. But basically you guys bypassed a lot of the stuff that you could do just by casting locate object.
I feel like it's a very good illustration of how divination magic can fuck up your game.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't in this case because I'm an excellent player.
Also because I've read Ultimate Intrigue, and Ultimate Intrigue tells you about how to deal with these things and still tell your story properly.
And so
shout out to Ultimate Intrigue, one of the best books for first edition Pathfinder.
But I figured I would find one of two things. I would find an eccentric collector, or I would find Red Mantis.
Yep. Well, you found a Red Mantis.
Boy, did I find Red Mantis!
My favorite part of this sequence was like, oh yeah, this is working perfectly fine. It's pointing you this way, like you're going that way, and oh, now it doesn't work when you get close to the house. It's like bouncing all over the place now. Sort of being like this spell, all it does is point an arrow to the closest instance of this item.
Yeah.
That you have.
And so as we circled around the house, it was snapping to different sawtooth sabers in the house.
Yes. And you go in and you find the place completely fucking soaked with alchemist fire.
Yeah.
And we have a lovely fight.
That was so fun.
Where first they ambush Lenore, who only sees them because she has sea invisibility up, and then they start setting fire to the place to burn it down while you guys are in it.
Yes.
And this was like a really important thing for me as you get into higher level Pathfinder combat, is you can't just have people wailing on each other, because then it's just rounds and rounds and rounds of people standing in the same 5 foot squares, just missing or hitting. And so I was like, okay, this, I think the book does a really good job of setting up an alternate combat objective in that the house is also burning down around you.
Yes.
And so you can attack them, but you also need to either stop the house from burning or get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And you had like a really great way of dealing with it.
Yeah. Firefighter Unia, shadow conjuration 2 aqueous orbs into existence and just started rolling them around, taking advantage of the 20% chance that something would happen. Standard action roll 1, move action roll the other. We did also find that once you've killed a Red Mantis assassin, if they have a round beforehand to go, oh shit, I'm gonna die here, they dissolve into red mist, which makes getting their bones very difficult.
Yes.
And yeah, we did actually manage to get the fire out.
But you didn't manage to get a bone.
We didn't manage to get a bone, but we did take one of the Red Mantis assassin masks and turn it into a firefighter helmet.
Yes, to commemorate the day.
To commemorate Unia's heroism.
So canonically, from now on, Unia is wearing a firefighter helmet.
Yes, at least on occasion.
Well, it's one of your standard equipment items, so I think you wear it all the time.
Forgot to tell Maru that when they made me wear it.
I think it's fine if the art doesn't show. That's a little silly for our nice fancy art. Also, like, you know, we got to showcase the cool scar.
Yes.
And let's see.
Yes.
So
we went over to the unfortunately already burned down Orsini Fencing Academy, and found a lockbox containing...
The lockbox was in the house.
Lockbox in the house? Oh, so we looked around the house and we found a lockbox, which thankfully was made out of metal and would have survived any fire, that contained evidence that Vencarlo Orsini was
Blackjack's boyfriend. He keeps an extra suit at Vencarlo's house for when he stays the night. Right? But basically the entire thing that Vencarlo had said to Ophelia was like, if it's been longer than 2 weeks, go to my house. You will find something that will explain what's going on.
Yeah.
And she found
Blackjack stuff.
After a really fucking tough time with disabled
the
device.
The lockbox was so hard to open, okay?
Yeah, you managed to get Blackjack stuff, revealing that Vencarlo is Blackjack. The thing that Daft figured out the first fucking time I introduced Vencarlo.
We talked to Vencarlo Orsini, and afterward you're like, so what do you think of Vencarlo? And I went, he's Blackjack, right?
And I was like, no comments. No comments. And we eventually I did sort of be like, yeah, you're right. But can we just like play it like you don't fucking know?
Yeah. And so having my character goes
Just in case anybody who's listening, hey, hi listeners. Anybody who's listening wants to get a twist. It's like, I think it's a pretty obvious reveal for anybody who's versed in like comic book heroes, but you know.
I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious that Bruce Wayne is Batman too, but everybody continues to miss
and the
it.
same jawline. But you know who's totally normal?
Clark Kent.
Yeah, that guy's got nothing going on.
Yeah.
What a fucking loser.
Yeah. But yeah, so then we were like, well, fuck. We should probably figure out what's going on here. But also, as long as we're here in Old Korvosa, we should probably stop Pilts.
Well, no, you didn't do that while you were in Old Korvosa. You did actually go back.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, you did go back because you were confronted by Amin Gelento.
That's right.
For trespassing on Vencarlo's property.
That's right.
And this was a great time where we got to see an old character. This is a guy that you rescued from the mobs
in book 1.
In like I think session 2.
Yeah.
Wait, no, not session 2 because it would have been
session 3.
Or actually, I think it is session 2 because we had a session 0.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I'm going back to the episodes.
Yeah.
Tell them about our man Amin Gelento.
Yeah, Amin Gelento was this guy who we rescued from the mob really, really early on in episode or in
Tell them about what he did
book
now.
1.
I'm looking up where we
so
met him.
he confronted us for trespassing and sort of led us into what remained of his property, which had also really fallen into disrepair, explained to us that things in Old Korvosa were now extremely bad.
Yes.
And how everything was sort of crumbling, and everyone was suffering because, both because the Grey Maidens wouldn't let anybody in or out, which severely limited trade, and also because Pilt Swastel was really just terrorizing everyone. And he pleaded with us
We met him in episode 3.
He pleaded with us to have him secreted away to the mainland, which we did do. We took him through the sewers, and brought him to a relative on the mainland who was a huge asshole, and was disgusted by Amin Gelento's very presence. And we gave them a chewing out, and I don't remember how that resolved, actually.
Well, I mean, they took him back in.
They did.
You guys went your separate ways, and then you were able to go back to. One sec. I'm getting back on the. Sorry, I had to scroll through like multiple episodes here. In order in order to get to this. And then, all right, so we
did also, I believe, while we were on the mainland. We learned that there was some sort of public works project that had been started.
Yes.
Where people were being given work orders to go and build something in the various squares and public meeting areas of Korvosa.
This is yet another instance of stuff that they give you outside the explicit text of the adventure. In the back matter of the book, there's like a list of events that happen at different points during the adventure, and one of them is that they start dismantling the Great Tower, which is this huge tower that they use to house the hippogriffs for the Sable Company, who Marcus Hendren was the leader of at the beginning of this book. And
the Sable Company's been disbanded.
And the Sable Company's been disbanded because of the coup.
Well, actually, wasn't it being disbanded before that?
It was being disbanded, and that's why we had the coup. And then any chance that it ever had of continuing was basically
completely
killed by
bashed.
that.
Yes.
Now they're all conspirators in the plot against the Queen. So we're dismantling the Great Tower. It's cited that they're dismantling it for structural issues, but what they're literally doing is taking the tower down and using the stones to build statues of Iliosa.
Yeah, structural issues. Oh, you mean there's an issue with the engineering? No, we have issues with the structure being there.
Yeah. And I believe you asked the all-important question of what are they doing with the hippogriffs?
Yeah.
And we didn't answer that question.
Nope.
Yes. But it's a good question to ask.
Oh, don't like that. No.
I don't think. I think you still don't have an answer of what we're doing with the hippogriffs, do you?
No.
Okay.
All the worlds meet.
Anyway, you'll find out. I believe even where we are now in book 5,
no, I have no idea. Yeah,
this.
no.
You will.
Oh God.
You will.
Oh God.
And
my skin is crawling.
Yeah.
Hate that.
And yeah, so I wanted to give you an update on things that are happening outside your control. Also sort of helping with the idea that this is a living world where you guys don't just do stuff and like everything waits off screen for you to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Stuff is going on while you guys are doing your investigation. Ilios is consolidating power. Things are happening. And importantly, we're setting up these public works projects as like this great thing. It's to celebrate the end of Bloodvale, which was also like me sort of being like, oh, okay, let's extra hype this up to poke fun at people who are celebrating quarantine being over by like having parties and not getting vaccinated. And yay. So now we've failed to stop this pandemic from becoming an endemic disease, and now it's going to exist like basically forever.
Hey.
We don't need a quarantine anymore. It's because we fucked up. We didn't quarantine well enough. Anyway, that's not what happened in Korvosa. Korvosa, you actually cured the plague.
Because
but social themes, I can still touch on the same stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you decide to go back after
Pilts.
And we get a rematch.
Yep.
I love, one of the things that I love is that when you go back, Lenora is kind of like leading the way.
Yeah, best 2 of 3.
And because, you've told Lenora this whole story.
Yeah, and she's pissed that she wasn't there. Yeah.
And the whole time, Piltz is like, who are you?
Yeah. All the guards are like, who are you? She's like, oh, fuck. I was dead last time. They changed their starting lineup, okay?
They're like, bring back the spiky lady. We like her. And you storm Pilt's palace. You
kick his ass.
You kick his ass.
Like,
and I think that's pretty much it. You fucking like I think you lopped off Jabber, his bodyguard's head while he was in hold person.
Yes. Yeah, no, that was horrific. We set some bridges on fire with fireball. Once Jabber was out, the fight was pretty trivial.
Yeah.
Piltz is a bard. He's just a bard, and then he had a bunch of cronies with hand axes.
Yes. And then we got some lovely loot, including the collected works of Shakespeare.
Yes, the collected works of Shakespeare.
Yeah, which
he actually did as part of a bardic performance.
Yes. And at first I was going to be like, oh, I'm going to quote Shakespeare at you guys. But then I went, oh, wait, shit. That's in English. None of you speak English. So then I started to quote, I believe The Tempest is what I did in episode. And then I went, oh, wait, no, shit. You guys don't understand anything he's saying. And
you're like, it's really, there's a nice compelling rhythm to it.
Yep.
Like,
you get the feeling like if you understood this, it would be really good. But yeah. You also got the beautiful Ring of Chameleon power that is glitched to change your hair color to a random color.
I love
one
the
of my
Ring
favorite
of
items in the
power.
entire game.
It's really useful when Siren has to disguise herself to hide in a stealthy way, because it gives you a +10 to stealth checks as you sort of blend into the colors of your environment. But it does also have this like extremely funny thing where if you try to look like somebody else, you look like them but with a funky hair color.
Yes.
Which is
anytime you use the disguise self feature, regardless of whether you're looking like another person or not.
Oh yeah,
it always gives you a random hair color,
yes.
which I did in the form of a a hex code generator.
A random hex code generator.
Yeah, to basically generate a random hexadecimal string, which tells me what color they should be. And then usually I pump up the saturation just to make it.
Yeah. It's very funny. Apparently in the description of the book, like, doesn't it say something like the glitchy ring, like it pissed Pilts off so much that he just refused to wear it?
Yeah, one sec. Let me look it up. Ring of Chameleon. Oh, there it is. Ring of Chameleon power. It specifically says most of the contents are relatively worthless costume jewelry, but one of the rings is a ring of chameleon power that Pilts sometimes loan to actors to aid with their disguises. Unfortunately, the ring doesn't function perfectly and is a strange quirk. Whenever the ring is activated or removed, all of the wearer's hair changes to a strange and unnatural random color. Excuse me.
I didn't realize it happened when it was removed too. Ophelia's never taken it off.
Yeah. The strange side effect has no real game effect, but it was enough to rub Pilts the wrong way, and he never used the ring himself.
Yeah. So, like, I love that it even says, like, in the game that it doesn't really have any real in-game effect, meaning it doesn't affect the effectiveness of your disguise.
Yes. Your disguise is equally good as it would have been if you had the right hair color.
But but it pissed Pilts off, so he never used it.
Yes. Now, later in the books, we do have a point where we have somebody literally comment on, "Hey, you have the wrong hair color." That's just because they failed the disguise check.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we explored his area for more loot. I did cut here because we had an episode of literally just exploring the rest of his palace and tallying up all the loot and then selling and then like getting like the worth of the loot and stuff. And I was like, you fought some chokers, which ultimately it's sort of one of those Paizo game design things, no offense Paizo, where like you have your big fight and then here's the little fight on this side.
Yeah, little side fight when you thought you were done.
Now to be fair, this is also, they're guarding another way in. You can climb in through the area that they're guarding.
Yes.
If you wanted to sneak into Pilt's Palace. In fact, one of the things that I asked you multiple times when you were coming there is like, how are you approaching this place? Are you going to the front door? You just went to the front door every time.
Yeah.
But there are alternative ways. You could have climbed up through this area if you scouted around the perimeter of the building and found this place where stuff is falling apart and you can basically climb the timbers. But then you would get ambushed by the chokers. And so, going in the front door has like its own bombastic style that I think fits your party really well.
Like the first time we were going to negotiate, and the second time Lenore wanted to fuck things up. Lenore, not a very subtle person.
No.
I love her.
Subtle.
She's not very subtle. If Ophelia had been in charge, maybe we would have gone somewhere else. But yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So after that, we had a bit of a side adventure diversion.
An interlude
with Zach and Jero from Pod Against the Machine. Great folks over there. We love their show too.
This was so great for me because I think we've talked about this before. We love Pod Against the Machine because the game that I ran before starting Curse of the Crimson Throne was Iron Gods, and like we'd been running Iron Gods for years at the point that Pod Against the Machine started, and so I was actually sort of acquaintances with Sam, the GM from Pod Against the Machine, through several different Pathfinder networking servers. And so, like, as they were getting ready, I like talking to him, shooting the shit about how my game was going. I gave him some stuff. I think I gave him tokens, because I already had pre-made tokens for the entire fucking adventure path. And I was like, here, just take these, because I have them laying around. Then it was kind of interesting because there was a long period of time where he was talking about doing this podcast, and then he actually did it, and we were like, "Oh fuck, it's out!" And then we listened. It's like, "Oh shit, it's really good!" And we were like, "Oh my god!" And their podcast is like taken off. It's like, dude, it's so good.
Oh my god, it's so good.
And so they've been so busy that we wanted to have an opportunity to work with them. but we just hadn't had a moment where we both could like do stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, I went to them and was like, "Hey, can we do a collab?"
Yeah, sort of at the beginning of 2022, which was well after the rest of the episodes in this season had been recorded.
And we had a collab where like you went on.
Yeah, I went on Brian,
Yes.
which is their like little Numerian one shots. Where they sometimes use to.
It's really cool.
Yeah, like I think sometimes they raise money for charity. And that was fun.
And so then in exchange, Zach and Jero came on our show. Very importantly, we bring on the clearly romantic couple of Zach and Jero. So that we can have a double date with clearly romantic couple of Zach and Jero.
Yes.
Sorry. Anyway, and so we had an interlude where you guys had a heist at the Jagari Museum to steal the one piece of tech, like Numerian tech that's in the museum, the Jagari Museum, which is in the book.
Yes.
Like this one piece of Numerian tech, which.
Yeah, so it was so Damien. Oh, bless you.
Yeah.
Oh, so Damien was at the museum doing research, as we did for a good portion of like the very first part of the book, and so it was Damien and Zach and Jero's characters heisting at the museum. Damien also firmly of the belief that returning any of these, we'll say, illicitly acquired, or we'll say questionably acquired artifacts to the places whence they came, is a good thing and a righteous thing to do.
Yes,
was
good
very,
and righteous, just like Killmonger.
Was Jesus Christ?
Sorry. No, I was very inspired by the Killmonger sequence in Black Panther. To do this, steal things from a museum because they actually belong to me. Like,
in this case, actually belong to Numeria.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. Zach played a was it a summoner?
I'd have to look back at the
He had an
sheets.
animal companion.
He. Let me look.
Yeah.
Talk about what happened, and I'll look up the mechanics.
And so we went through the museum, sort of skirting around its various security protocols. I'll say making good use of invisibility spells, dispel magic spells for the various arcane eyes that were watching, and glitter dust for guards and such. As we snuck our way through the museum, some of us more stealthy than others. It was weird having Damien actually do something stealthy. He's decent at being stealthy, actually. He has being a dex-based character, or a dex and an int-based character, but having a pretty good dex score and several ranks in stealth and the ability to cast invisibility, Damien can actually be pretty stealthy, and he just usually isn't because he's far too awkward. But when pressed, actually was well, I wouldn't say a competent member of a heist team. The heist team was not the most competent, but we did manage to get where we were going, and discovered upon getting to the exhibit where the Numerian, this tech glove was situated, discovered that it was a fake. A note fell out of the bottom that was like, sorry.
I believe he was the Inquisitor archetype that gets an animal companion.
Yes. He was an Inquisitor of Abadar.
Yes, Inquisitor Abadar, very good.
And he was coming here because he was of the belief that Korvosa having Numerian things was like negatively impacting Numeria's bottom line, basically.
Yes, basically.
And so having Damien, staunch anti-capitalist, have to team up with this guy Oh God, he was really awful. Zach did an amazing job.
Oh yes,
it was very good. And then Jiro played a Kasatha,
yes,
named
Kasatha.
Sisamsa, who had many crossbows and was truly amazing. Really the really the standout member of the heist party. In that, Zach's character is super interesting, very good at fighting, not very stealthy. Damien is Damien. But it's super fun. After we found out that the original was not on display, the original Numerian artifact was not on display, we had to go down to the archives.
There was basically a duplicate on display, and you had to go down into the archives to find the proper one.
Yes, where we fought, where we we melted a guard.
Yes.
Rather against our will.
Yes. And then you got to fight a technically agent named Nedrick Stavardi,
yes,
who comes from a side adventure that happens in Numeria that I heavily cribbed from when we went to the city of Chesed, which is like this big metropolitan area in Numeria. But basically, Nedrick Stavardi is a guy who uses a mono whip. And I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. I want to play a game where I use this mono whip again. And
he was a fearsome foe indeed.
He was pretty mean, yeah. Megases are fucking mean.
Yeah. Zach's character died.
Yeah.
And his animal companion, picked his body up
and ran off into the night. Presumably to get him healed.
Ran off to the Bank of Abadar to get him rested.
Yes.
But yeah, Sisamsa got the artifact, which was a gauntlet into which 5 little pieces of tech, or 6 little pieces of tech could be slotted to give it increasing powers and abilities.
Yes.
What did you call it? The Gauntlet of Limitless Potential?
I believe it was the Gauntlet of Infinite Possibilities.
Ah, yes.
If you can put all these tech item cores into the knuckles and then snap your fingers, you can
cast Wish.
No, it's not Wish. It's specifically, I believe, you can kill everything in like a 300-foot radius or something.
Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it was basically, I think it was like a mass disintegrate is what we had it doing. Which, yeah. All right. But with that secured, we went back to the things that the rest of the party were doing. Damien never told the rest of the party about.
He was sworn to secrecy, and he didn't tell them.
Yes.
He didn't want to make them accomplices as well, in case he ever got in trouble for it.
Yes. Let's take a quick break, and you can enjoy some music from Philip Melvin. This track is going to be the theme for Book 4.
Ooh.
Curse the Crimson Thread. So enjoy this. We'll be back in a moment.
Now is time for your local weather on the 8s.
It's bad. Weather's bad.
The weather's bad.
Weather's bad. Okay, listen to music. that was The Ascension of Arthur, which we will be using for our theme for Book 4 of Curse of the Crimson Throne. One of the things that I really like about Ascension of Arthur that is ultimately a reason that I wanted to use it is I wanted something that has sort of a different cultural identity than a lot of the stuff that you've heard in Korvosa itself. And specifically, one of the reasons that I like Ascension of Arthur is that there's like bagpipes in it and stuff like that. Hurdy-gurdy. And, you know, sort of a very, very Bear McCreary combination of things. But like, it gives you this blending of cultures that that you can't quite place it, you know, because it sort of comes from a mythological version of England in this case. But I liked using it for the Shawanti Cinderlands, sort of because when I was originally reading about the Shawanti, like years and years ago, they really struck me as being kind of like a mix of Celts, sort of like pre-Ottoman Iranian factions and Native Americans, right? Like, and you know, a lot of art and a lot of stuff, especially in the Korvosa setting, really sort of focuses on the parallels between Shawanti and Native Americans. But I sort of wanted to have something that evokes some of the other cultural elements that I really saw when I was reading about them. And so having bagpipes and stuff like that, you know, ties them in to me with like the Celts and stuff. And so I was like, oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. And also sort of the interpretation of the King Arthur story as being an anti-colonialist one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't really put much thought into the Arthurian aspect of it. It was mostly just the instrumentation. That
in the interim, we went and saw Green Knight.
We went and watched the entirety of Green Knight while you guys were waiting. But importantly, this is getting into sort of like the blending of cultures that you get to create Pathfinder cultures. You know, there are some memey basic interpretations of Pathfinder culture, but if you really get into like the world building of Golarion, like each of these cultures has like their own distinct stuff that really separates them from our world and from each other, right? Like, and what better time to get into the distinctions of cultural identity than as we transition into the end game of Book 3.
Oh,
right?
boy.
We now know that Gloria Arcana is kind of at the center of things. And we've gotten all the other pieces of Old Korvosa out of the way. And so the path is kind of clear that we need to go back to... Excuse me. We need to go back to Old Korvosa and deal with Gloria Arcana. But first, we do have... we rolled a random encounter and fought some red mantis. And from them we got the bone of a red mantis.
Yeah, we got the jump on them and managed to kill them before they did their turning into mist thing.
Yes.
And we got a finger bone, and we gave it to the broker below and got the location of our little baby Portobello, who appeared upon scrying to no longer be so little.
Yeah.
And also to be attended by a little goblin lady of some sort.
Yes. We via the broker, we got that Portobello's been getting some magical healing attention, and is quite a bit differently off than last we saw him.
Yes. So we decided to go try to find this place that appeared to be somewhere in the sewers of Korvosa, and we went down into not just the regular sewers, or we went down into the deepest deep sewers that ended up being less of infrastructure that carts around sewage and more of the remains of a city that Korvosa had been built on top of.
Yeah. Specifically, you were actually in sewers still, but it was the Thessalonian sewers of Xenurithnia that are still there below the like basically we built our sewers on top of theirs because they had the better infrastructure.
Yes. We did not quite intuit that or determine that in the game.
Yes, yeah, you guys didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
But like you guys got lost in these Thessalonian sewers beneath the city. There's also another place where I kind of took a little bit of creative license in that the Korvosa guide does explicitly say there are more things below Korvosa than what we've outlined, and they sort of give you the general theme of what you're going to find down there. And I really wanted to give it some ties into some of the other stuff going on around Varisia, which is the Rune Lords, right? Like, and Korvosa sits on the site of a city that once existed called Xenurithnia.
Once the ruling site of the Rune Lord of Lust.
Yes, and so as you go deeper into the battles of Korvosa, you also uncover pieces of this lost civilization. And specifically, we, after wandering around lost in here, we have our lovely scene where we don't know if it's a statue of a Nereid or a statue of a Dryad. And then you run into some Korvosan guards.
Yes.
And scare them into giving you a map. Before realizing, oh shit, these guys work for Cressida. We should probably work with them.
Yeah, we apologized. We gave them their map,
Yes.
their map back. They went off to whatever drop they were doing with the head of the Thieves Guild.
Guildmaster Boole.
And
Yes.
we had a good laugh about it later.
Yes. I wonder what they were doing.
You have invoked both my wrath and my ire.
Yes. And so with that information, you went to where the water was flowing into. That didn't follow the flow of water into the bay or whatever. And you managed to find this waterfall, the Corpse Feaster Falls, as we called it, where Corpse Feaster Otyugs are grown. Or basically, Corpse Feaster Otyugs being like a bigger, badder version of an Otyug. The idea is that they get that big by eating the dead, and it's like, but we're like, no, they're not doing that here. We're just calling it Corpse Feaster because it evokes the size of a large Otyug. But these are actually just Otyugs that have been drinking this water that heals Otyugs but is toxic to anyone else.
And this area has been being maintained by a little goblin warden, who a little druid named Squelch.
Yes. We also had a lovely bit where we got to navigate these sort of like collapsed structures. I got to be like, what parts of a 10,000-year-old civilization are still going to be around? And I'm like, well, we're in a sewer, so there's lots of moisture here.
Yes.
So wood is gone.
Yeah.
So we have stone, we have metal, and not much else. So any writings that were here are gone. Any chairs or shelves or any foodstuffs or whatever, that's all gone.
Oh yeah.
The only thing that can possibly be left here is stone, and even then the stone is in rough shape because it's 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
And so we had like water had eroded away through a building that had collapsed in on here.
Gosh, that was so cool.
Like a building was on its side underneath the city. And we had actually the lost pieces of I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you that it was an orrery that you found? You found basically the planets of an orrery.
Yeah, I think you told me that after.
But yeah, basically I was like, oh, there's like some metal balls that of different sizes, because all the armature and everything was gone, but the metal balls that made up the planets were still there. And so picking your way through this, you completely missed the giant quest indicator saying go to this bridge, and had a lovely time trying to figure out how to carry down Lenore, which, Dats, I hate to tell you, the way that you carry down Lenore is you cast Fly on Lenore.
Yeah, Lenore climbs.
No, you cast Fly on Lenore, and Lenore can carry somebody else down.
Yes.
I did not interrupt. I let you do your thing.
Yeah, you let me make an ass of myself.
And then I went, you want to check out the bridge where there's a light that is showing you where the thing.
And I went, oh, there's a quest marker over there.
Yep. I had like a lovely light highlighting this place on the other side of the bridge, being like, "Oh, go over here."
Yeah. I was zoomed in too close on the map.
This is what happens in tabletop RPGs like all the time. When you're describing a room as a GM, you'll say something that you're like, "Yeah, and there's like a cliff here." And also, there's a bridge over there. And you go, yeah, they're going to check out the bridge, right? And
there's a cliff here.
But then everybody gets obsessed with, oh, how are we going to get down the cliff? We have to get down the cliff. Oh, how are we going to do it? I'm like, what about the bridge I just told you about? Like right over there. This happens in tabletop RPGs all the time. Like people can become obsessed with whatever little tiny thing you described that you weren't ready for.
I just happened to exemplify that particular.
In this case, I just wanted to save you from fall damage.
Yes. Yeah. No.
So I did highlight the way that I.
Yes. And then there were some little stairs that have been carved with stone shape down to the pool. Excuse me.
And you got this lovely pool where basically you had a waterfall churning up some sort of like glowing reddish magic in the pool. And OTX can drink it and they can heal and get bigger. And Portobello's been drinking it to get nursed back from the attack where the Red Mantis assassins cut him. But there was a rule of no magic here, where like you are not allowed to do any magic. And this is also one of those places where I'm never ready for the party to listen.
Yeah. So what happened was we went down to the pool and nearly had a huge diplomatic incident with the Otyugs,
yes,
who were this close to attacking us,
yes,
just for being there. I didn't want to kill any Otyugs. I didn't want to get Portobello mixed up in that. And also Squelch was fucking scary. She was kitted out up to wealth by level. And like very fierce, and it was not a fight that they wanted to get into, mostly in the interests of protecting Portobello, and also this druid seems nice and we don't want to piss off this probably nice person who's not actually an enemy, so we did just listen, which doesn't happen very often.
Yes. But you did manage to enlist the help of Squelch, who has nursed Portobello back to health, and now Portobello is ready to be Squelch's animal companion.
Yeah, and because it turned out Squelch actually knew Vencarlo Orsini, and had done some work in helping Vencarlo cover his tracks when he went up to the Arcona Palace. And yeah, so she was very interested in making sure that he was okay too. And so yes, Squelch joined the party, Portobello joined the party, and we made our way.
Yeah. We got a lovely thing out of this, in that I was using a third party archetype from one second, I'm checking this just to make sure. Basically a third party animal companion in the form of an Otyug, where this was published by, is it Legendary Games? Sorry, cat's stepping on my mouse again. Legendary Hunters by Legendary Games, yes.
Yes.
So you can have like monstrous companions through this. Ironically, when we did this, I was worried that the Otyug would be too powerful. It actually turned out to be less powerful than I intended.
It's okay. He was a baby.
He's a baby.
He's a baby.
But so cute.
Oh my god,
it's so good to have. Like he was like crying for his mama, and then he gets back. Ironically, when I was saying that, when I was originally having Portobello crying for his mama, I was actually talking about his Otyug mom. But Lenore came in and was interpreting it as talking about her, and so Portobello, having very low intelligence, was like, "Oh no, you're my mama, aren't you?"
Oh, food for baby.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Otyug did say, "Take care of my baby," and so we were like, "Okay."
Sorry, cat is climbing all over my desk again. Hello, princess.
Hello,
what
princess.
do you want? Are you also a baby?
Yes.
She is also a baby.
She's a baby.
Oh, she's different offenders. Oh, sorry.
She's so cute.
But yeah, and you also inspected some of the stuff around this area, and you got...
We found that it was sort of a failed magical experiment.
Copying, I believe...
The artifact.
The artifact. And you got... And specifically, there was a lovely interlude where I got to talk about the linguistic and cultural differences with you and Thassalon, where like you see something, you read it, and you're like, I don't know if this means healing or necromancy, but sort of there's an interpretation that, you know, it could probably mean both, but you don't speak Thessalonian well enough to really get what they're talking about. But you get like a word that could mean healing or could mean necromancy. I also got a little quip about 3.5 using necromancy as the healing school. I believe it's back to necromancy now in second edition, isn't it?
I would need to look that up to confirm
I believe
that.
it is. So we found that this was an attempt to recreate some sort of powerful energy from some kind of artifact. We don't know what kind of artifact that is.
I just looked it up. 2e healing is necromancy.
Yeah, because the rune lords have risen now, and so they've brought back their concepts of duality of purpose. Yes,
incredible. So we got out of the sewers with our new friends, and we saw in the night sky a glowing to the north that was very ominous. That reminded us of things being on fire. And we rushed to Old Korvosa.
Yes.
Crossing the bridge,
going straight in.
To find the Temple of Eridan on fire.
Yes. And it's always fun for me, like having these side events that end up being kind of like the focal points of the story. Like when I wrote, they set the Temple of Eridan on fire, I was like, I just need some way to get your attention. But like it ended up being such an iconic both fight and character moment for Unia.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh shit. And so when this is one of the reasons why I let us not only get a book ahead, but also have time to meditate on the themes of the book before releasing it, which is why we're taking so long to put out book 4 here, is I want to see both the impact on your party and the impact on the setting of your actions before like doing like artwork or whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
And so the art that we had commissioned for this book is of the temple burning because of how important this section is for your party and for the city. And of course, the temple being burned by Signifier Strickland, the member of the Order of the Pyre, who kidnapped Kester originally. You killed him, and this is also sort of serving another purpose that I have as we get into higher level play, is you can't just kill people. You also have to make sure you kill them and nobody's going to bring them back. Right, because like at low level play, you just fucking kill people. Who cares, right? But once you get to like level 9, 10, stuff like that, you know, if you kill somebody, if they have allies who can bring them back, those motherfuckers coming back, right? And it's an important thing to broach the subject of, because we're gonna go after the queen, right? Because we're planning to like deal with the queen at some point. We need to know, okay, well, how do we stop her from coming back? And so we get to deal with that in kind of like a microcosm in the form of Signifier Strickland, who came back worse. Like now he's got some sort of like skeletal thing going on,
flickering in the fire. And
I'm not going to say what it is just yet, because I don't know if we explicitly said it at this point. And we are going to see Signifier Strickland again, because you didn't kill him here either.
No, we didn't succeed.
He attempted to negotiate with you in a burning building.
Yeah, and we were like, you burned the building. You killed the 3 attendants who were here. fuck you. Fuck whatever deal you're trying to make with us.
He's like, just bring me the boy.
Yes. We had in a side thing given Kester an amulet of proof against detection and location, which we obtained from Vencarlo Orsini's
Yes, you did that
effects.
before you went down to the Radiant Notes.
Yeah, we had obtained it from Vencarlo Orsini's effects, and we were like, you know what? Let's make sure that nobody can take Kester away again.
Yes. Kester was also just too busy drawing a cat named Barry, apparently. What?
He's so cute.
Yes. Barry?
Barry? What? No. Not named after a Matt of any sort. Matt Barry, even. So, but yeah.
Bayhor is specifically what I was going for.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it's Barry for Bayhor.
I was thinking Matt Barry, like the impression.
Yeah. Well,
sorry. But yeah, that well pissed Signifier Strickland off. And he decided to burn down the Temple of Eridan in retaliation, because he knew it would get our attention and hurt us, because that's the kind of person he is.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we fought him in a burning building. Once again, Old Korvosa being on fire. Once again, the party having to try to put out that fire. More clutch spell casting in the form of Squelch having resist energy communal prepared.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're a druid and you have an animal companion and you're level 9,
you prep resist energy communal.
Resist energy communal.
Yes.
And so we were able to mostly get protected from the fire, although Signifier Strickland did dispel it on Lenore in a very nasty move.
Yeah.
And then Damien got suggested away from the fight by a fucking imp.
Yes.
God, suggestion remains so mean so late into the game. It's like glitter dust, but for annoying the player characters. And left the fight to go and try to get back to Thumanexus to finish his thesis.
You tried very hard to weasel your way out of it.
I did.
And I was like, no, like, we're not going to cheapen enchantment magic just because you have a high intelligence score.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
And we had a lovely conversation there about like what enchantment magic does to your brain.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh, yeah, it like makes your brain your own enemy.
Yeah. So we fought Strickland. We nearly killed him. He was very close to death, and he teleported away. And we were left in a burning building. And Unia did something. The Firefighter Unia, yes, did something that they should not have been able to do.
Yes, I believe you went to cast Aqueous Orb on the altar.
Yes.
But
Shadow
rather,
Conjuration, Aqueous Orb on the altar.
But rather than getting a Shadow Aqueous Orb, you got this like huge radiant burst of shadow energy that quenched all the flames and restored parts of the temple with basically an echo of the temple from the shadow plane. I don't believe all of that was clear at the time because it was night and, you know, you were just trying to get out of a burning building. But as you guys will see, as we're getting into book 4, that sticks around. And I believe we don't deal with that in book 3 here because you're really kind of set on, you know, we have to get to the Arconas. Also, we were just in a burning building, but like the fact that Unia is able to call forth this incredible power is like really a momentous occasion, sort of marking a shift from just being, you know, this person saying, no, Eridan's alive, to I have performed a miracle of Eridan.
Yeah. And they also got a fragment of Eridan's shield, which is a super powerful artifact. And it had been turned to stone. So.
This is kind of getting into one of my like game philosophy things is I always sort of treat it as a character sheet tells you what you can do all the time. Basically, it tells you what you as a player are entitled to. But like there should be times when characters do things beyond the scope of what's written down on their character sheet just because of circumstance or whatever. And I actually I don't know if I'd had this entire thing planned for a long period of time, but I did know that I wanted Unia to do something with the Temple of Eridan that would be more momentous. Like perform some kind of miracle involving the Temple of Eridan. And I just didn't know how to have that come about until like we, you know, set it on fire and quench the flames with aqueous orb. And I was like, that'll do.
It was very cool.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah, and so we went and retrieved Damien from the Grey Maidens who had detained him, doing some, we'll say, very convoluted sort of mind tricks to get Damien to cast dispel magic on himself.
Yes.
I believe Ophelia said, I talked to the Grey Maidens over there, and they said that...
You said that you can work on...
they'll let you go back to
You can go to Human Nexus if you cast a spell magic on yourself.
If you cast a spell magic on yourself.
It's very
and
good.
Damien was like, you know what, Ophelia? I trust you, because Ophelia got a natural 20 on her bluff check.
Yes.
So he cast Dispel Magic on himself.
This is really good.
And dispelled the suggestion effect.
Yes. And then from there, we went to House Arcona, where it turned out you were expected.
Yeah.
And you were welcomed with open arms.
We were going in there fully expecting that as soon as we got through the door, they would be like, oh, it's you. We know why you're here, and we're going to stop you.
Yep. And again, this is another thing that I like to mess with a lot of times as a GM, is I always, we always assume that, you go into any place, you're going to fight, you're going to kill the things. But it's like, it's nice to flip it sometimes.
Yeah.
And the book actually does sort of like allow for this. Basically, if you go to Arcona Palace, before killing Piltz, he asks you to kill Piltz. Mm-hmm. So then he'll negotiate with you. Yeah. And if you go there after dealing with Piltz, he's like, thanks for dealing with that problem that I had. What do you want me to do for you now? Right?
Yeah.
And it was really nice to have that here.
Also, just Gloria Arcona is so genial. Like, he's so... Mm-hmm. charismatic and so like overtly friendly. Like, we were waiting in the side room, and he came in and immediately started berating his major domo for not giving us any refreshments.
Yes.
And then
very much making a show about how kind and how generous he is.
Yeah, it's obviously all a show, but it is like very different.
Yes. And like to the credit of the book, they are really asking for a lot for you to not just fucking kill him when he tells you what's going on here, because you have this lovely conversation in which you play a little game of cat and mouse of him trying to get you to come to him to say, hey, we hate the queen and we want to do something about it. But basically sort of being polite and doing the normal social etiquette things, but knowing why you're here and basically wanting you to say it. Mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, we hate the queen and we need Neolandus Calipopoulos. We know you have him.
Yeah, it was a really good opportunity for Ophelia to flex her diplomatic chops.
Yeah.
Even in Siren Guys.
Yeah, and like the book gives me a very tall order, which is essentially on the pages where we discuss this stuff. It just says basically this is the text from the book. Once the PCs have removed the Emperor of Old Korvosa from the picture, it doesn't take long for word to reach Behor. Gloria, sorry. When the PCs return to Arcona Palace, they are greeted warmly and swiftly escorted upstairs to the baths. We skipped this because you only went here one time. Behor then abruptly asks the PCs what they wish of him. This is after giving you the Ring of Evasion set with a deep green bloodstone. And assuming that they ask for Vencarlo or Neolandus, he gives them a rueful smile. And then they say that handing him over is a trifle complicated. He explains that both men have been sent below to the vivified labyrinth of PC that succeeds on a DC 25 knowledge local check recalls rumors of this notorious dungeon, a place said to be used by the Arconas to torment and test prisoners and agents alike. Behor apologizes for the difficulties and that he won't retrieve either guest for the PCs. And so the task in front of me was, how do I convey this information without having you fucking kill him right now?
There's a very straight line here that goes, oh, you're not going to go get him? As soon as you're begging for your life, you'll go get him.
Yes. Well, no, they don't do that. They expect you to take his challenge.
Yes.
And go into the labyrinth.
Yes. No. So the challenge there is how do you get people to go do the labyrinth rather than just say, well, we're going to coerce Gloria right here to give us Neolandis.
And so the resolution that we had is this lovely salesman conversation of like giving you this idea that, oh, you want to go into the labyrinth and you want to save your friends. And I have them there because they're secure, playing on sort of the dual meaning of secure, that, you know, they're secure in that nobody can get to them, but they're also secure in that I have them.
Yes.
Yes, I have secured them. And I think it did end up working out.
Yeah, it landed really well.
Honestly, anytime we get into a situation like this, I'm always like, this is just going to break down into combat and all this is going to be lost. But like Ophelia really fucking nailed the diplomacy of this. And Glorio came to match her. Like it was just really, I think one of the things that I like most about book 3 is you have so many instances where these what's the word that I'm looking for here? These like titans of personality like clash with each other, right? And like here you have, oh, we're going to negotiate, and each of us are like the most charismatic people in Korvosa. And what does that negotiation look like? And it was really brilliant. Like I really liked it.
It was very good.
And you were really good.
Oh. I think one of the things that also helped is that although the Cover of Night often have to solve their problems with violence, none of them are like particularly violent people. I mean, Damien is a bit fighty, and Ophelia will do what she has to get the job done. But like probably the most overtly fighty, or the person who sort of has to solve their problems with violence most often is Lenore. And she is very fundamentally a gentle person. And so like given the option to have people who are good at diplomacy speak on her behalf, or people who are, smart and good at figuring things out, do the mental heavy lifting so that she doesn't have to pull out the faux shard and start chopping off heads, she's very content to have that happen. And, she would, I think in a lot of cases, prefer it.
I can definitely see that.
And so, when we get an opportunity to diplomatize, I think a lot of the members of the Cover of Night are not just happy, but eager to take it.
Yeah. And you did take this offer. And from there you get to go into the vivified labyrinth. You get to see, first of all, this beautiful, like, Vudrani-styled palace, sort of harkening back to, one, that the Arconas used to be like a sort of a moderate noble family when they kind of came to Korvosa, but then they found their riches by going to Vudra and getting all this wealth of spices and textiles and stuff that you can take from faraway places and sell it here for more value. Which Gloria has a lovely bit where he talks about that. And now. The real story of what happened with House Arcona, they didn't just take a loan from the crown and then go, well, I don't think it was a crown at the time. They didn't just take a loan from Korvosa and then redouble the efforts. Like, as we find out through the course of this dungeon, there are Rakshasas here. The Arconas are Rakshasas, right?
Yeah.
Basically, what happened to the Arcona family is they went to Vudra going like, we are Chelish. We are going to go here and we know what's going on and we're going to get all this wealth and we're going to take it back to our homeland. And what happened was some Rakshasas went, oh, that's cute. And they fucking killed them, took their ship, and then posed as them And this Rakshasa family has been posing as the Arconas, I think, for like 200 or 300 years now.
Incredible.
Now, interestingly enough, Glorio and Malia are Behor and Vamanda. They are brother and sister. They were born here to their Rakshasa parents. And so they've only ever really known Korvosa, which is why when you go down into the depths, after fighting some like some Janny skeletons that are animated by fungus, you get to go down to this very interesting puzzle, which was just developed by having bridges that don't seem to connect the right way on the map.
It was fun.
Yeah, you get to face off with this Rakshasa in the basement, who kind of holds them in poor regard because he doesn't really see them as like legitimate Rakshasas because they've never been to Vudra.
And as to keep him in line, they keep him in the basement.
Well, he doesn't want to be part of the whole fucking charade that they're putting on upstairs. He just wants to be down here and make his little figures
and occasionally eat people.
And eat people, yeah. You know. Like any good Rakshasa, you want to eat some people. And this is sort of how we get into like the cultural blending of stuff like Glorio and Malia. They even talk about this in like their negotiations with you. They know they're not accepted as like your normal Korvosan nobles.
Yeah.
And they use the sort of use the commonality that a lot of the party can relate to, is that they don't look like your typical depiction of Kelish nobility, right? But like they're also like not just, it's not just like a racial thing. It's also like they are a different species.
Yes,
like they are Rakshasas. They don't actually relate to Korvosan nobles in the way Korvosan nobles approach thinking about things.
Yeah, they have a non-human psychology.
Yeah, and gosh, there's a really great discussion of Rakshasas. Let me look this podcast up. If you can please talk about your experience as a party while I look up the Rakshasa discussion.
So in fighting this guy in the basement, obviously we had our banter with, why don't you stay for dinner, etc., etc. But then like as so he had two big old snakes, which we killed. And he was quite sad that we did that. He was quite upset. And at the end of it, like before we knocked him out, because we didn't want to kill him, he was, he was just like, I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to negotiate. And we were like, you also wanted to eat us. And he was like, yeah, that too, but I wanted to talk first. And we, we knocked him out. We kind of felt bad about it at the end, especially when we discovered his room, where he'd been doing some really beautiful, really intricate and sort of delicate carvings of like animals out of various precious materials. And Lenore, our resident Shellonite, was like, had just a moment of really lamenting the fact that this, murderous monster who likes eating people was also such a skilled artisan, and how can these two things coexist? And I really like that, the book takes the time to give these characters this dimension, not just like, oh, they're sort of the civilized monsters, but also that they have hobbies. They have, aspects to them that are not, thoroughly reprehensible in every aspect of the word. Behor and Vamanda donate to charity, and maybe they do that because it makes them look good and it makes other people impressed. But there are plenty of humans who donate to charity for the exact same reason.
Yeah,
and then there's their grumpy cousin who lives in the basement, who likes to spend his time between eating people, making beautiful little figurines.
I believe I found the thing that I wanted, the Kill Every Monster podcast.
Yes.
When they had their deep dive on Rakshasas, where they really talked about like the psychology of Rakshasas.
Oh, yes.
As predators, you know, and like one of the things that's kind of important when you treat a Rakshasa as a predator is like you need to know what the best way to hunt people is. And you don't hunt people by chasing them down and attacking them, because then the people would all get together and then they come after you and they kill you. So the way that you hunt people is you make them desire your company, basically. And so what Glorio sort of does through the various actions that you get here is make himself vital to a Korvosa, right? And in doing so, he actually does a lot of good for the city. But it's all serving the purpose of consolidating his own wealth so that he has more influence over Korvosa, so that, you know, the family can hunt people.
Yes. Yeah, and like specifically Glorio's bid to become sort of the ruler of Old Korvosa in this regard is to really enable himself to have a constant supply of people to eat.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the things that is sort of the driving force of the actions here at the end of the book is that Gloria's really worried that Ilios is going to fuck this up, right? Like Ilios is going to push too hard and people are going to end up, you know, revolting. And that's going to fuck up this whole thing that he's done, where he's made this big business here and created this fertile hunting grounds where he can get basically people from Bridgefront to come here, work for him for a little bit, and then disappear under mysterious circumstances. Which is not a thing we have addressed at all in the podcast, but like we really wanted to have, you know, this buildup of the Rakshasas, you know, being vital parts of the city.
Yes. And sort of Glorio's thought on the matter being the people can't be revolting, they have to be delicious.
Yes. But yeah, you seal that guy away.
Yeah, and so we sort of got his cousin alluded to that. We sealed him away. We got a robe of arcane heritage, or rather a sari of arcane heritage, to fit with sort of the theme of Vudra.
Also, saris.
Also, saris are cool.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'd known that we needed to get Lenora a robe of arcane heritage at some point or another, and I figured this, you know, this is a place where you're dealing with sorcerous creatures like Rakshasas, and so I was like, fucking great place to have a robe of arcane heritage. One of them would wear this, right? And so from there, you managed to find your way into the Vivified Labyrinth.
Yes.
You want to tell me about how your feelings about the Vivified Labyrinth?
Oh my goodness. The Vivified Labyrinth was a really, really cool dungeon that ended up being...
Wait, sorry. Before we get into the Vivified Labyrinth, I do have one more thing that I wanted to talk about here.
Sure.
Which is the story that Avadeshu tells you.
Yes.
Which is this, he tells you this story about a woman going to the mountain god, asking for the mountain god to do something about these Rakshasas that are preying on the villagers, and then the mountain god weeps and basically literally cries a river of holy water, and because it's a god creating a river of holy water, it basically creates a magic circle keeping the Rakshasas on their island in the center of the river. But in doing so, floods the entire area, killing everyone that lived along the river. Which is another one of those things that I was sort of trying to get the Rakshasa perspective. You know, like this is one of those tales that I wrote it specifically because there's very little information about Vudra in the Pathfinder setting, and so I wanted to have a Rakshasa tell a story that they know about how Vudra got to be the way it is.
And it's a really cool story. I felt a little bit bad going back and listening because Ophelia was questioning him at the time, and so she had to be very dismissive to hurt his feelings.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
But yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
but yeah, and in fact, like I did sort of root in what Voudran lore there is. Basically, the idea that I had was that this mountain god was Matravash, and by crying became a river. Ooh. And Matravash is a river like the Indus River in India, like that is vital to the survival of the people of Vudra, and in Pathfinder, like Matravash is worshipped as a god in its own right. And so sort of the idea that I had was that this lady tells this story and it sort of transubstantiates this mountain god into a river. But in doing so, kills all these people who are living along the banks because, humans are so stupid. Like, yeah. But and whether or not that's a story that actually happened, Yeah. But
it tells truths to the Rakshasa.
Yeah. It tells truths to the Rakshasas in that we had a good thing going and then the humans fucked it up. So we need to make sure that we keep them in their little cages so they don't fuck it up again.
Also, how did the Rakshasas get from their little island in Vudra?
So this is the other part that I talked to Daft about sort of in between books here is one of the ideas that I sort of had behind this story is we tell this story about these Rakshasas that are isolated on their island by holy water being poured all around them. Well, how did they ever get off? Well, some idiot showed up with a boat. and then they could all get up. So like it's sort of like implied there that these are the Rakshasas that were stuck on the island. But again, I don't intend for this to be like a fit into the canon. This is as much a piece of folklore as anything else. And I think it's also important to have folklore in a setting that doesn't necessarily have rooting in the established, this is the official mythology. Like, just here's a story that I just happen to have, right? And so I wanted to have him relay that story, one, to intimidate you guys and do the whole villain twirly mustache thing, but two, to sort of give you the Rakshasa perspective on things, that humans are stupid, and that they'll make bad decisions if you let them do their own thing, and you need us so that you can be okay.
Yeah. And then
anyway, then you get into the Vivified Labyrinth.
So the Vivified Labyrinth was quite an experience. Very interesting dungeon. Very interesting visually, I think. But I think it ended up turning out okay for a podcast format. We did a lot of descriptions of like what was happening.
I was really worried that the Vivified Labyrinth would not translate to podcast very well.
I think it
worked out pretty well.
I think it did too. So I had made a crack, I think in the previous episode, about what happens if the rooms rotate on me, and then it turned out that was a central motif of the entire dungeon.
Yes.
So freshly leveled up, we made our way into the Vivified Labyrinth and immediately ran into a symbol of pain and rolled terribly on our fortitude saves.
Yeah.
And so we were then like, well, we have to get 60 feet away from the symbol. Let's do that. And so I will say my normal approach to going through dungeons is cautious.
Yes.
I make a lot of perception checks. I do a lot of careful thinking about where I'm going.
Like most experienced players of tabletop role-playing games.
If I can,
stuff's gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, if I can, I do divinatory magic to look in the room before I enter it, etc., etc. But suddenly, 4 out of 5 members of my party and the animal companion were suffering under a symbol of pain, and sorry, it was 3 of 5 and the animal companion. I was like, I need to get away from this thing. The penalties are so bad. And so I threw a little bit of my usual caution to the wind and ran straight into another symbol.
Yes. And put Lenore to sleep.
Which put Lenore to sleep.
Yes.
And then so we were trying to contend with both of those. And then the Dark Sphinx showed up.
Yes. Beautiful Dark Sphinx, Civet. Love her.
Girl boss.
Yeah. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. One of the things that I like about Civet so much is, she's a Dark Sphinx, right? And Dark Sphinx is being created as a fusion of sphinxes and devils. And one of the things that I liked that you kind of played with is, does she like riddles? It's like, no. Dark Sphinx is like killing you. And like the thing that Dark Sphinxes enjoy in a way that Sphinxes enjoy riddles is being surrounded by deadly traps. Right. And so she's happy enough that you fell into this trap. And she tries to take Lenore. You managed to get Lenore awake before she can dimension door away with her.
Yeah, we did manage to get her out of Civet's way. Portobello picked her up in his tentacles and moved her, and then stood in front of her, being as big and scary as possible.
Yes. A trick that I have done to a party before that Daft was in is when somebody's unconscious, dimension door with them, because in Pathfinder 1e, if you are unconscious, you are considered willing for things like dimension door.
Yep.
So you can take somebody from the party.
Yeah,
I actually did it in the third book of Iron Gods.
I was just gonna say that was the book 3 boss fight in Iron Gods.
Yeah, we had a ghost that dimension doored the party rogue away
after she fell unconscious.
And that was also similarly a great way to break tactics. It's also a really fun thing to do in like third books. Usually, by the time the party has coalesced into a solid unit, you go, okay, your usual tactics, fuck that.
Yeah.
And I think on the part of Paizo with the design of the dungeon, it's good dungeon design in that, you're gonna run into this, and now it's gonna break your tactics, and now you're gonna go this way, and now congratulations, you're deeper into the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Right.
And then like so we managed to sort of scare Civet away by dealing some damage to her. She retreated. Another part of fuck your tactics. My party is usually pretty good at staying together. My party got separated from each other.
Yeah, by the rotating rooms.
In that, I think, was it Portobello went over and pulled a lever?
Yes.
Because, Portobello has an int of 5, and we're both on board with this.
Yes.
And so the party got split. With Squelch and Portobello and Unia. Unia was with the other party.
Yeah,
Squelch,
and then Unia got on their own at one point.
Yes, so it was Squelch and Portobello, I think, separate from everybody else.
Yes, and then Squelch and Portobello went one way, and the rest of the party went another way.
Yeah,
the rest of the party encounters this lovely trap with the 3 chests, which has like the most confusing wording of anything.
Yeah, Squelch was still there for that. That was before the Dark Sphinx.
Oh, sorry, that was before the Dark Sphinx.
But yeah,
then they get separated, and long story short, each group of characters meets a Vencarlo.
Yes.
Squelch meets a Vencarlo in another room. I believe the Fangs of Diamazol room.
Yes.
Where beaten, bloodied, looking worse for wear. Here's a Vencarlo.
Yes.
And the rest of the party get to Civet's throne room and find a Vencarlo there, and then get attacked by
Civet. Yes.
by Civet in the throne room. But given that you are in this dungeon for like 6 fucking episodes, and we didn't really ever run into a lot of the traps, because you guys either through cunning or through help from one of the Vencarlos managed to avoid them. Basically, we have a lot of dungeon crawling, and then you guys meet back up with 2
Vencarlos.
With 2 Vencarlos, and each of you thinking, oh, this is the real Vencarlo, right? Because at this point, each of you have had times with your Vencarlo to get everything together. And honestly, getting the party separated like this, I was so glad I was able to do this reveal at both times.
Yes.
Like I didn't know if that was going to happen from the beginning. And the fact that things lined up so that we could have our episode of, we had like a full session of there are two Vencarlos.
Yeah.
And each of you, excuse me, each of you basically getting ingratiated with your Vencarlo.
Yeah.
And then meeting and being like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we ended the session with everybody meeting back up, or at least with the anticipation that everyone would meet back up. Oh no, we did, because they both said, I'm the real Vencarlo, just
you have to trust
me. You have
me.
to trust me.
Yes.
And that was where we ended it.
Yeah. And then we had, in the next session, like, some like proving yourselves.
Yeah. We did a slice yourself with this knife.
This is session 64, split jacks.
I think it's
session 65. Now we're in 65, unmasked.
Yes, unmasked. We did some good stuff. So we had them each cut themselves with a knife because we knew that Rakshasas had damage reduction. And
wait, before you did that, you asked them questions to sort of like establish who the real one is.
Sorry, yes.
Unfortunately, one of the things that you get with Rakshasa, which turns out one of them's a Rakshasa, is they can read minds. So if you ask them a question that you want them to respond with the right answer, a Rakshasa can get the right answer from whoever failed their will save. You know, and they can say what you want them to say because they know someone in the group is thinking it.
Yeah. Notably, Ophelia, one of the people who knows Vencarlo best and is sort of looking to take on the mantle of Blackjack, terrible will saves.
Very bad will saves.
Very bad will saves.
Like most roguey types.
Yeah, like most roguey types. Very good reflex saves, very bad will saves. And she was basically an open book for the entire time. And so both Vencarlos said things like, you know, your work as a vigilante's been very important, and you know, I'm glad that I entrusted I'm glad I entrusted the mantle of Blackjack to you and things like that. Notably, I believe the larger part of the party who had rescued their Vencarlo from Civet had put him in the Blackjack armor and given him his stuff so that he could fight.
Yes.
And so we had Blackjack and we had Vencarlo.
Yes.
And the first time that's ever happened, both Blackjack and Vencarlo Orsini were in the same room
at
together.
the same time. Yeah.
And yeah, so they were both saying things like this. And so we realized that asking questions wasn't going to be useful. So we decided to have them cut their hands to see if there's any difference. Because we were very suspicious of various things being Rakshasas. Basically from the outset coming in, because we had that one little snake attack us.
Way back in book one.
Way back in book one.
Yes.
We're like, oh shit, they can look like anything. So we had them slice their hands. Unia made a really high DC heal check to overcome the disguise DC of the Rakshasa.
Yeah, one of those rare instances where I'm like, oh, use a skill in a different way. It's like, oh, you're making a heal check. It's like, well, your result beat the disguise check. So, you, like, basically, the idea being like, oh, the dental records don't match on these two patients.
So they were able to see that Vencarlo, who was not in the Blackjack gear, had pressed the knife harder into his hand to draw blood.
Yeah.
And then we tried hold person, which we knew would work if Vencarlo were Vencarlo, because Vencarlo's human and hold person works on humans.
Yes.
But if Vencarlo were anything else, like an outsider or a non-humanoid,
it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
And now, to be fair, you cast a spell, and the Vencarlo that you cast it on tried to play it off like it did work, because I actually rolled a spellcraft check as you were casting it, and Vivanda, who it turns out this was Vivanda, aka Malia Arcona, posing as basically daughter of Gloria Arcona in the ruse, actually brother and sister. And she failed to identify your spell as your spell was being cast, and so didn't know how to react properly for it. But sort of followed the manifestations of it to try and be like, oh look, I'm held, like I'm all bound up now, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and Uni was like, well, you're not supposed to be talking.
Yeah. And so you got her that way.
Yeah.
Now it's one of those great times where we're really dependent on dice rolls. Like if she had gotten the spellcraft check, like that probably wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
She would have just acted like she was held, like as per hold person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you don't really. I mean, if you could have like detected magic to see if it was still affecting her.
Gone over and tickled her.
Or whatever, like, but you know, happened to work, and I think that was a really good test, and I'm glad it worked out that way.
Yeah.
But essentially, she then begins bargaining for her life, basically being like, "Look, I'm trapped in here just as much as you guys are. I want to get out. I want to kill my brother because he's gonna fuck up this whole thing that we have going. He's being way too public. Somebody's going to catch on. They're going to find out that we're Rakshasas. I want to go back to the way things were, right? I want to go back to living in the shadows, secret. And, you know, this was a very tense negotiation, too.
Yeah.
But, again, similarly, Ophelia taking point on the negotiation here, really fucking nailing it. It's one of those. This is actually one of the rare times where we changed something in the editing process. In that, when we first recorded the session, I was like, "Oh, this is a cool negotiation." And then we went back and we made it sexier.
Yeah, we were listening to it and we were like, "Oh shit!"
It's like there's a lot of sexual tension between these two. And so we had them get like really close, and it was like, "Oh, you can smell like her perfume, and it's like really nice." And like and so like we actually did pickups for this recording to be like, oh, the sexual tension in the scene is like there,
just like crank it up just a little bit more.
Yeah. And you know, like I think that's one of the reasons that Ophelia works so well, is like she's sort of the femme fatale, like assassin-y type.
She's Bond and the Bond girl.
Yeah. I mean I would say that like Vamanda's definitely the Bond girl here.
Oh yes,
but she's like the Bond girl that betrays Bond here.
Yeah,
you know?
and this is Ophelia's definitely Bond here, and Vamanda's the betrayer Bond girl.
Yeah, oh gosh, it was just such a good scene.
It was very good.
And
also the bit with like well, this happens a little later. Like, she takes us to Neolandis, because we're like, we're not going to negotiate.
That's what we're getting to. Is basically you have this negotiation where she has been saying the entire time that they need to go after Behor, whereas the one dressed as Blackjack turns out to be the real Vin Carlo was like, no, we need to go for Neolandis. And now that she's outed as, hi, I'm Vamanda, I'm a fox-headed Rakshasa. You guys are like, we're not fucking going with your plan.
Yeah,
like we're going with Vincarlo, who's our friend, and also we came here to get Neolandis. We're gonna go get Neolandis. And so you go get Neolandis. Unfortunately, we get to find out why she wanted the negotiation to go the other way. Is that when you get there, Neolandis is being guarded by an Asura who is in service to Gloria.
Yeah.
More specifically, is in service to the head of House Arcona. How did you feel?
Oh gosh. So we went in there, and Vamanda was like, well, I was hoping we could come back down here after because she's currently in service to the head of House Arcona, and I'm not yet head of House Arcona. Now we have to kill her.
She had a lovely quip to the Asura, being like, your contract is under renegotiation.
Yeah. And we were very scared of this Asura, who had, multiple weapons and many arms. And then we won initiative, and we kind of just curb stomped her. And it was like, oh. And then, so we got Neolandis. We learned that Neolandis had been
Tortured
for
at the hands of
information
Amanda.
at the hands of Amanda,
Yes.
and had another very tense scene between the party and Amanda going, you still want us to work with you after you did this to our friend? And Amanda's like, we just needed information. Like, you don't understand. Like, being a high-level noble in Korvosa is super dangerous. We needed to know what Queen Iliosa was planning, etc., etc.
And now we know.
And now we know, right? See?
So you can have your guy, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And then, Ophelia sort of confronted her, and we again got this nice tension. But, a little bit different this time in that Ophelia was like, you didn't just torture him because you needed information.
Yes.
If you needed information, you could have just asked him or used some, used magic to get it from his mind. You tortured him because you like it.
And this is the scene where you get the do you like it? The feeling of power.
You did it because you like having power over people.
But that's the point where they get like really close.
Yeah.
And she just looks at you and she's like, I could ask you the same thing.
Yeah.
Basically you negotiate that if you guys help her kill Glorio, you'll get to go free. Right? She'll tell you the whole deal, right?
Yep.
About why they were doing this and everything. And why they voted to give the queen power and everything. And then you guys can go free. With Neil Landis.
With Neil Landis and Van Carlo.
And so then you go up.
Yep.
And you fight Glorio, aka Big Whore.
Oh my goodness.
This was the all stops out fight.
Oh my god.
Basically there are different stages of how difficult the fight with Glorio can be. Unfortunately, you guys tripped every possible red flag that he could have. And so we got a huge fight with Glorio, the elephant, a water elemental, and guards.
Yeah.
There's other ways to do this where if you manage to keep him from looking at you through the bloodstones, you might be able to sneak up and kill him in his bathtub or something like that.
Yeah. He was watching us in the ring he gave us the whole time.
Yes. But you guys got the he knows we're coming. He knows you've been negotiating with me to overthrow him.
Yeah.
He's got all the stops out because he wants to fucking stop us.
Yeah.
And so meet
you. So it was
a
big fight.
It was a big fight. And a lot of things dropped way faster than I intended.
Yeah, we rolled pretty well in initiative, or in particular, Vamanda did. And she went over and she took out the elephant
immediately
in a round because she got sneak attack. She kicked its ass. So we didn't have to deal with the elephant, which Rane was really excited about using because apparently it can trample,
powerful
and it can
charge,
overrun, and
you remember in Iron Gods, there's the part where you have the Triceratopses and they have this thing where they can do shitloads of damage when they charge.
Yeah,
that had that same ability.
Oh my god!
And I was like, I really wanted it to do it.
He was hoping he could kill one of the party members outright.
Basically, at a certain point, when you spec into charging in Pathfinder, you turn your character into a missile that you launch at things and they just explode. I did this with a brawler that I built named Herta in Reign of Winter. But you can have these characters that they're gonna go from here to there, and after that movement is done, the thing that you pointed them at is gone. And that's what the elephant was basically spec'd into doing.
But it lost initiative.
And so Vamanda killed it in one round.
And then we set up some good crowd control stuff. So we had Airwalk up, and then Squelch set up spike stones.
Yeah, that was a good combo.
Which limited folks' ability to 5-foot step, and ended up sort of effectively restricting a lot of the fight from in this big room to one corner of it.
Unfortunately, you did not restrict the place where things really mattered, which is right next to Glorio.
Yeah,
and Ophelia ended up right next to Glorio at the start of one of his rounds.
In a tactical misstep that I regretted forever and ever and ever. I put Ophelia 10 feet from Glorio Arcona. He 5-foot stepped, and then did circling mongoose
Yes.
on all of his attacks to get sneak attack
Now,
on all of his attacks.
I do have to admit there may have been a rule faux pas here on my part. I don't know if you can 5-foot step before you circling mongoose. However, one of the reasons that I didn't go back and be like, oh, we have to redo the whole fight is the difference would have been whether he killed her on like I think the 3rd attack or killed her on the 5th attack.
Yeah.
Like he still fucking destroyed her.
Yes.
Like I think by the time you were done, you still had like 2 or 3 attacks left, and that's what he used to then take her head, grab it by the hair, pull her head back and cut off.
Yeah, like the reason that kill was so brutal was because he overkilled her.
Yeah, like I had you dead, I think by the 3rd attack. And they were like, let me look at Gloria's sheet again real quick. One of the reasons that this was so brutal is if anybody's read the house rules, I have this thing where we get rid of feat tax feats.
Yeah.
Because there's certain feats in Pathfinder, read Elephant in the Room, that are really just there to prevent you from getting to more interesting feats later. And so one of the things that I made available to the players at the start of the game is that you can basically bypass some of the feat taxes by combining some feats. And there's a whole thing out there. It's called Elephant in the Room. If you want to know the details of how this works, I use a slightly modified version of it because I think the Elephant in the Room only builds 2 weapon fighting rogues, and I wanted it to be more versatile for other characters, so I added some stuff for other characters like spell penetration levels when you hit caster level 10 and stuff like that. But anyway, point being, Glorio had more feats available, and so I spec'd him into the circling mongoose feat tree, which basically allows you to take steps between attacks of a full round attack, and get sneak attack damage when you do it, right? And so he had, let's see, so he can either have bite and 2 claws, or he can have the kukri, which he uses 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I believe he was hasted.
Yes.
So 5 attacks with the kukri, and then a bite, and then an offhand claw.
Yeah, it was
because he's also spec'd into multi-weapon fighting. Oh no, he's not spec'd into it. There is a big penalty on his offhand attack. But,
oh darn!
Well, I mean, the penalty's on there already, so like it doesn't really matter. It's a -5 on the offhand.
We never even got to that point.
Yeah. Basically, what we did is I think I killed you on the third or fourth attack.
Yeah.
But then I still had like 3 attacks left.
Yeah.
And
it was so brutal.
Yeah.
And this was just outside the area of the spike stones. This was just outside the area of difficult terrain.
Yes.
Ophelia ran a little bit too far forward to kill an enemy who, to be fair, was doing like kind of sort of prismatic sprays at the party, and was, a priority.
He also had Piranha Strike up here, so like he was taking a minus, what is it? BAB. Yeah, he has a base attack bonus of +16.
Jesus.
So he was just at the tier you need to be to get a -5 on attack and a +10 to damage.
Oh god.
So while on the sheet, like it just has it at plus 1d4 +7 with the kukri. When you Piranha Strike, that's now 1d4 +17.
Yeah, no, it was he sliced her, and that was without the sneak attack. Which he also got
crits on 15 to 20.
Yeah, so he crit, he sneak attacked, he cut her to ribbons.
Yeah, she was fucking destroyed.
It was extremely brutal.
But then Lenore had this fucking crazy retribution.
Oh my god, it was amazing.
She in turn crit like 3 times.
Yeah,
and you had your lovely Six Semper Tyrannis line where you shouted at Behor as you killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, unseated Behor as the head of House Arcona.
And unseated Ophelia's head.
From her body. And that also means that it's harder to res her.
Yeah.
You need resurrection because the remains are fucked up.
I did have a listener come in with a question. Thank you, Malinoria from
Yes.
the Pot Against the Machine Discord, who asked why Squelch didn't just cast Reincarnate, which Squelch would have been able to do. And the
answer is we just didn't think about it.
I just didn't think about it. I thought that Reincarnate needed the body to be in good condition, like Raised Dead does.
Yeah.
It does not, and so I didn't consider it, and so we didn't do it. But also sort of just in terms of like character reasons, Ophelia's had some stuff happen to her regarding like the form of her body that she's not really consented to, and I think that the party would discourage Squelch from casting Reincarnate just because it would mean that she would come back in a different body.
Yeah.
And we're willing to shell out the money for a resurrection, so we're going to do that instead.
Also, I think it's perfectly fair for Squelch to have just been in shock and not thought of it because holy fuck.
Yeah,
Like,
holy fuck.
My friend just got their head cut off.
I just met this person and I love them.
And you didn't have it prepped that day.
No,
so.
I didn't have it prepped that day.
And so you could have prepped it a later day, but at that point we were already talking about like burying her and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking at Gloria's sheet again. He also had arcane strength.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I believe due to feat tax breaks, he also got what?
Oh no, sorry. He had everything that goes into getting
he didn't get weapon
mongoose.
specialization because he doesn't have fighter levels. Never mind. Anyway, but yeah, it was pretty brutal. But yeah. And with that, Vamanda was like, "All right, here's your money. Get the fuck out of my house."
I have to mourn the death of my father.
Yeah.
Who was horribly killed.
Now, she did technically tell you that she was going to tell you what their whole deal was. I don't think we got into all of it.
No.
Because
we were in shock.
You guys were in shock because Ophelia's dead. And she didn't push it because she doesn't want to give you the information if you don't push her for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, technically, I will say this. You did have a deal.
Yes.
So if you ever want to hold her to that, you could probably hold her to that deal. She's an outsider. Making a deal with an outsider has like more weight than making it with a humanoid. And like, but like, yeah, you didn't push for the info. I think I've talked about it a little bit. Like, essentially one of the things that they ran into in the earlier parts of Curse of the Crimson Throne is they could tell something was going on in Castle Korvosa with Iliosa and Adrid. They wanted more information about it. They were pushing to get this information, and then lo and behold, Salvatore Scream shows up with the seneschal.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, yeah, come on in. Pop your feet up on the couch. Come down here into the basement where I'm gonna lock you up and imprison you, and you better tell me what the fuck's going on in there. Like they didn't get Neolandis for a while. But basically they could tell something was wrong as soon as Iliosa started getting influenced by the Crown of Fangs. And so by succeeding on a sense motive check, essentially, they knew something was wrong and they needed to prepare. And so they started gathering supplies because Iliosa was acting weird.
Yeah.
And they were like, something's going to happen here. We don't know what it is, but we need to be ready for whatever the Crown is going to do. And so all the world's meet happened because they were preparing for something that they didn't know the exact nature of. But they knew they were going to need supplies. And one of the things that they were like is that they were going to do is be like, okay, whatever catastrophe happens here, we should give food to the poor to make ourselves look good. Right. And then one of my favorite, like, things just happen sometimes situations is just the people that her little boy toy picked.
Yeah. Varric Van Kaskerken.
Varric Van Kaskerken. Her little boy toy, Varric Van Kaskerken, just picked some shit guards, and they started killing people and using their meat to fill out the orders.
I say that was one of the big surprises for me, was that the Arconas legitimately had
no
nothing
idea.
to do with that. They had no idea that was happening.
Yeah, I think she said, would you believe that I don't know if did your party ever believe her on that? Like,
I think eventually they did.
it's one of those cases where, yeah, it just fucking happened. Now, did it happen for a reason beyond what we see? Who knows? Maybe this is part of the curse that comes in there. But yeah, like, and then they got Neolandis, and they were able to torture Neolandis for information. They find out about the Crown of Fangs. They find out about this whole thing that's going on, and basically then Bloodveil happens, and you know the Arconas are not stupid. Like,
no.
Oh, you took the throne, and then this terrible crisis just happens that you just happen to have the solution for.
Interesting.
They're like, we know that racket. We've been doing that for years.
Yes.
Like, and so they went, okay, let's get our own cure together. Let's cure Old Korvosa, and then we'll look good. But then you guys cured Bloodveil, and during Bloodveil, like famously, one of the things that we were investigating here is they denied Ilios's first attempt to
instate Togemore as Seneschal.
To instate Togemore as Seneschal. But then one of the things that you guys were investigating is why did they say yes?
Yes.
And ultimately what happened was when they said no, Iliosa basically said, oh, well, how about this? She was like, well, how about this piece of property that you guys have underneath your warehouse here? I could just take that. Or you could say yes, and I'll buy it at a fair price. And so, really, like one of the main reasons that they relented is that they didn't want to just lose out on this business deal that they had. And additionally, at this point they started going, oh shit, Ilios is up to something. We don't know what it is. And then when the Temple of Urgathoa thing came out, that there was a Temple of Urgathoa under the warehouse, they put two and two together, and they were like, oh, she's doing this whole thing to do it, because they knew there wasn't a Temple of Urgathoa down there before. And then she took it, and now there's a Temple of Urgathoa. So basically, in the time that she came to ask them about Togemore, which was before all this came to light, they basically went, okay. If she's going to blackmail us into letting us have this, or take all of our holdings on the mainland, right? Let's just give her this power, and then once we've done that, we can take it. We can get her off the throne, and then we'll take that power for ourselves. So it's essentially, we're going to give her the authority to do this, because then we're going to take the throne.
Yeah, and then it won't matter, because we'll have the power,
right? Yeah. And so that's when Gloria started concocting his scheme to cure Bloodveil. But then you guys beat him to it.
Yeah.
And now he's like, oh, fucking hell. I'm like, but by you guys coming to him, he's like, this just solved itself. You're like the only people that seem to be able to get anything done in Korvosa. If I get you on my side, you're the heroes of Korvosa, right? I can then go back and be like, I cured Bloodveil on Endron Isle. I am allied with the Cover of Night, and then basically win public favor to his name, and then basically one step leads to another. Basically, take the throne at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very effective strategy. All he needs to do is start wearing Siren brand shoes.
Yep.
You're wearing
we didn't get it.
Merchandise.
We didn't get into all this, but Daft and I have discussed it since. So I wanted to share it with all of you lovely people who've listened to us for now, 3 hours?
Why? I suppose you've listened to us for many more hours previous to this. So.
Maybe
Sunk
this is
cost and all that.
Yeah,
why would you stop
gotta be going somewhere,
now?
right? Yeah. But that is book 3. We then had an episode with denouement.
We learned about the secrets behind the Crown of Fangs.
Yes.
In that it holds a fragment of a soul of a blue dragon named Kazavon. And that there are there are 6 other pieces. This one particular artifact
Well,
was...
actually, I don't think you have that yet.
We learned that there were 7 pieces a little bit previous.
Oh, right,
to
you
that.
learned that in the
Yes.
in Citadel Raid.
Yeah. And
Sorry, I'm also dealing with we are now a book further in, and I'm trying to make sure we're not dropping any knowledge that hasn't come out yet.
I pulled out specifically my notes for this. In that he was a worshiper of Zon Kuthan, a blue dragon who got hired by Ustalavic nobles.
Right. Neil Landis found this in the archives on Engine Isle.
Yes, Neil Landis found this in the archives after he noticed that Iliosa had found this artifact in the pyramid, also known as the Grand Mastaba, upon which Castle Korvosa is built. So we learned Kazvan was a worshiper of Zon Kuthan, and was a blue dragon, was hired by Ustalav to push back orcs from Belkzen, but ended up keeping the land for himself. Ustalav hired some adventurers to go and kill him. They kind of succeeded, and ended up binding his soul to a bunch of artifacts that they scattered around the area, with warnings, like the stone that was placed over the crown that ended up in Merciful Jagari's care at the museum, that was like, don't fuck with these things, they're bad.
Yes.
And in order to get more information, he knows that the Shawanti have more information on why this happened and what the whole deal with Kazavon is or was or will be, and that he needs to take some time to talk to Thousand Bones, who we met in at the end of book 1.
Yes.
And he
Thousand
needs
Bones
to
being a diplomat on the behalf of the Skonqua, who you recovered his grandson's body from the Rolflam's dungeon.
And he was going to need some time to figure that out. And meanwhile, we were on the run as Vamanda went out to talk to all of the folks who were receiving blood veil cures.
Yes.
Going, the cover of night, they killed my father, Glorio.
Yes.
Oh.
We even had like a lovely thing where like she's rehearsing how to cry in front of the reporters.
Yes.
Like,
it was
my father is dead.
My father is dead.
Yeah.
And so
we get our lovely like evil Morty theme. The villain has won.
Yeah,
it's a really fucking low point for you guys.
We're on the run. Ophelia's dead. All of our possessions are in a bag on a boat.
On a boat.
And Neil Landis is also in the bag.
Yep. And then Ophelia's father shows up.
And is like, what have you done with my daughter?
Yeah. And I wonder what's going to happen there. Oh, wait. That episode's out now. Oh, shit. Go listen to that.
Shit,
we're getting into book 4 here.
Oh, my God.
And so that is where we pick up with session 68 of Curse of the Crimson Throne. Very nice. Go listen. It's gonna be great.
Do it. It's great. Our friend Mike, he's awesome.
Mike plays Ophelia's dad. Also, at the time we recorded this, he was not a dad, and now he is a dad.
He is. He's a dad now.
He's got a lovely little potato.
Very cute. Very potato.
Right.
Bye. See you now.
Book 4.
Of course, of the Crimson Throne. Wait, what?